I was connected to Earth's black market from another world with the skill market. Chapter 1 to 25. Chapter 1, A White Room. Oh, shit. Welcome to another world and farewell my life. I'm 34 years old, and I'm a salaryman with a third-rate university degree. I'm an anime otaku, a game otaku, a military otaku, even though I'm just a newbie on all of them, and I'm a halfway single amateur virgin. I was a novelist wannabe, but that dream didn't come true, so I tried to avoid ending up as a creep and took care of my appearance. But as a second-tier otaku, it was impossible for me to have a real relationship. Well, no matter. It was a dream that was never going to come true anyway. I'm currently in a white room in a castle in some kingdom. This place seems to be a secret place to summon people from other worlds. There is a man who seems to be a mage wearing a robe and a bearded man wearing a crown who seems to be a king. A middle-aged queen with very thick makeup who looks like she is wearing a white mask, whatever she's using. And a white-painted woman in her late 20s who seems to be a miniature copy of the queen. All of them are looking at me with contempt. I'm used to that kind of eye. The problem is the knights in armor standing in front of the royal trio. There are 5 equally well-trained big men. They are looking at me with murderous intent and have already drawn their swords. Every time they move, they make a lot of noise. Damn it. This way, oh hero. The magic circle that shone in the middle of the white chalk room has already disappeared. And 3 teenagers are led from by the mage. Just like me, they were summoned from modern Japan. One was a handsome thin macho man in his 20s, the other was an athletic gorilla macho man, and the third was a fluffy college girl in a recruitment suit. It seems that these people, that emits a young, crazy, and hyperactive aura, I don't know what the actual thing is, of course, are the ones who are the heroes whom the kingdom's chief mage wants to bring in. Then, what about me? A middle-aged man with a medium height, shabby, tired-looking greasy-faced after an all-that-nighter, wearing a 19,800 yen wrinkled suit, is a so-called ordinary person who just happened to be involved in the summoning. I'm not interested in defeating the Demon King or saving the world, and I don't mind being a mob if I'm a mob at all, but the king and the rest of the kingdom don't seem to have the option of letting this pathetic mob live, because they have seen it. My status. The hero has invincible physical strength and mental toughness. The sage has immense magical power and tremendous knowledge, and the saint has unparalleled healing abilities and blessings from all the holy spirits. I don't remember the details, but it's something like that. In short, they were chosen for the right reasons, and even if they go to the Demon King's castle right now, they will be able to compete even at level 1. That's fine. Please do your best at whatever you do. The girl cried when she heard that she couldn't go back to the original world until she defeated the Demon King, but the hero and the sage, I don't know which one is which, consoled her, and the princess and the queen appeased her, and she managed to recover while cowering. Then, as for me, by the way, the status in this world is not a parameter with an absolute value, but rather a number that sets the limit, which the value that ordinary people can reach is 100. Name: Taiki Fuyoshiaki. Occupation: merchant. Rank: 01. Physical strength: 23 magic power, 31 attack, 12 resistance, 46 defense, 66 agility, 78 intelligence, 63 cordage, 04 skills: appraisal, 51 teleportation, 02 storage, 84 market, 01. Just average. I've been summoned all the way from another world, and I have nothing over 100. There are only a few that even exceed 50, which is considered the average value of ordinary people. My physical ability value is comparable or even lower than that of a commoner, not to mention a knight or soldier. But you see, this merchant or market is a kind of cheat skill that allows you to order and produce rare items such as the latest cosmetics and the best sweets from other worlds, and to increase your companions, gold coins, and connections so that you can live happily ever after with your lovely harem mates. I might be a hidden type, you know. Isn't that right? Right? The disappointment is so great that it's not something to laugh at. As the chief court mage, how are you going to take responsibility for this? I apologize. If this is the case, I will carve a slave crest on him and use him as a sacrifice for the heroes to help them grow. Yes, that's a good idea, Your Majesty. Even such a lowly man can be of some use. The mage and the royal family members all have disdainful looks on their faces, and even the mild-mannered me can't help but be annoyed by this. Slave sacrifice? You've got to be kidding me. What? That is, I don't think I could compensate for the cost of summoning and all that, but that's not my fault, is it? In fact, how can you be so arrogant to say I am useless when you are the one who drags me into this situation? Fine, I don't need any special treatment, and if I'm out of the force, I live on my own. In return, you have to pay me compensation for dragging me into this mess. Give me 100 gold coins, and I'll leave this place. I sensed a disturbing atmosphere in the middle of my remarks, but unfortunately, I was on a steady all-nighter and had no sense of delicacy, so I didn't think it would become such a big deal until it was too late. I got beaten up by a knight and electrocuted by the mage, and after screaming and rolling around, I shuddered at the completely changed atmosphere of the place. My suit is burned, and there is smoke in my hair, and more importantly, the knights are looking at me like they are ready to kill me. Insolence. One of the knights said coldly and drew his sword. The rest of the knights drew their swords one after another, and the story returned to the beginning. Here it is. This is a scene where the poor me is waiting to be killed brutally. Damn it. You have spouted abusive words at His Majesty the King, who rules the world's largest and the most powerful superpower, our salient kingdom. Such a thing is outrageous and unforgivable to do to the nobility, let alone the royal family. How dare you disrespect that supreme being? Oh, my, this is that, isn't it? The one I had when I was fired from my first company. I hadn't even been taught how to set up the work, and I had been forced to do a ridiculous amount of work, and when I succeeded, that stupid manager took the credit, and when I failed, he blamed me for my incompetence. I was fired and had to pay compensation for the failure. I backed out as hard as possible, but I couldn't get any overtime pay or even my last paycheck. I haven't really progressed, have I? The only difference between this time and the last time is that this time I'll be fired physically. What the hell, man? My life is really hopeless until the end. I stared at the sword in silent contemplation. Chapter 2. Isolation and Awakening. I had no idea what was going on when the sword swung out, leaving a whooshing sound in its wake. Everyone around me probably did. I was standing there with my stupid face down in front of the king, who was staring at me with a confused look on his face. The distance between the knight and me, the one who almost killed me earlier, is about 10 meters. I can now see the back of the armored man as he looked around restlessly. When did I jump? I was relieved and terrified at the same time when I realized that it was because of my teleportation skill. I didn't know how it had been activated. I don't think I'll be able to get away safely until I know for sure. As I prepared myself for my next escape, my shoulder was suddenly grabbed from behind. When I turned around, I saw that Gorilla Macho was about to hit me. You, just surrender quietly. You've got to be kidding me. I'm not going to be killed without a word. Aren't you on the victim's side too? I'm just getting caught up in this bullshit. Don't lump me in with you, you incompetent bastard. I struggled desperately, but there was no way I could resist his ridiculous power. I was punched with all his might, and I fell in front of the knight again. Before I could shake my dizzy head, a silver light flashed in the corner of my eye. Hey! Before I could finish my words, my hair was grabbed, and the tip of the sword plunged into the floor. There was no chance of getting the weapon away from him, and the knight raised his sword again while clicking his tongue, and as I crawled on my back to escape, swords were thrust at me from all sides. Not good. I'm gonna die this time. The teleportation. It's impossible to keep my posture if I teleport like this, and it's no use to do appraisal. All I can see is my own death. The bodies of the knights swam. There was no shock or pain that pierced my body. The knight's face gasped for breath and froze above my head. Storage. Apparently, there was no need to shout out the name of the skill. If the activation were simultaneous with the shouting, my body would have been skewered. I managed to make it in time, but the situation is still critical, and I'm desperately trying to get on my knees and crawl out of the room at the highest speed I can. Wait. My legs were grabbed, and I was dragged back to the middle of the room. I was punched and kicked, and then I was struck in the lower back and suffocated. Before I could escape, a toe slammed into my stomach. As I rolled around, vomiting gastric juices, the knights rushed to kick me. My status screen flickers at the edge of my vision. I guess they're searching for memories and strategies to survive. Various scenes and information glow in my mind like a revolving lantern. Name: Taiki Fuyoshiaki. Occupation, merchant. The letters, which were garbled, wavered and appeared. They were letters that I hadn't expected to see. The occupation, merchant of death. I was connected to Earth's black market from another world with the skill, market. Chapter 3 to 4. Here's the chapter. Enjoy. Chapter 3. Power to steal. Wow. Oh, what the? After the sword, the remaining sheaths on the knight's waists are stored, and the armor, handcuffs, chain mail, and even underwear worn during the stripping process are all stored at once. The king's clothes and mantle are stored. The crown is stored with the wig, the tiara, necklace, and rings. The dress, the chair, and the scepter. Storage. Although I tried, it was impossible to store a living person. Damn it. Kaiwa. After storing the few furnishings in the room, candlesticks, side tables, doors, and anything else that caught my eye, the white chalk room was left with naked men and women. The king was bald and disheveled, with an ugly belly, short legs, and a small thing. The queen and the princess are not the kind of women I want to see. The saint is a surprisingly skinny type. No, I don't really care about that right now. What are you doing, you bastard? Shut up, Euphemosis. The gorilla macho's face turns reddish-black at my rebuttal. His thing is not small, but short and with full armor. No, don't show it to me, you shit. I took out a sword from the storage and swung it at him right in front of his nose as he tried to hit me. He stepped back just in time to avoid being sliced and then stepped back into range. You can't expect to get away with this, old man. It's not like he just has a big body. He must be doing some kind of martial arts too. Hold him back, Hiroki. I'll finish him. Don't tell me what to do. So you people know each other? Huh? I wonder if the saint is actually used? I'm not going to get into that right now. The good-looking macho man is trying to get around something, and the mage is starting to chant, which is a bad sign for me. Since the door has been stored as well, it's possible to escape now, though it seems that they recognized it by the way I looked at it. The knights have remembered their roles, and 2 of them are guarding the royal family while the other 3 are blocking the doorway. Fuck me. You can't expect a middle-aged salaryman with no athletic experience to be able to break through with only a sword. As for the teleportation, it would depend on my luck, and my remaining magic power is not so good either. Name, Taiki Fuyoshiaki. Occupation, merchant of death. Rank, 01. Physical strength, 14 magic power, 02 attack, 12 resistance, 43 defense, 41 agility, 34 intelligence, 65 cordage. 01. Skills, appraisal, 62 teleportation, 04 storage, 91 market, 02. My skills value seem to have risen within the margin of error, but my other numbers have all gone down. My physical strength, maybe my HP, was already in a precarious state. I don't know if it's the teleport or the storage that's causing the loss, but my magic is almost empty. I bet on the last resort, I murmured to myself. Market. At that moment, the world stopped. At least that's what it looked like to me. There was a glow in front of me, blocking my vision. In the light, I could see that someone had appeared. Yes, my angel of salvation. Hey, you're kidding, right? I can't believe my eyes when I see it. I questioned the sanity of the god or whatever that had forced this fate upon me and cursed that idiot with all my might. Chapter 4, My First Real Bullet. Welcome. A man with a ridiculous smile on his face and a line that sounds like something I've heard before. He has dark skin and a dirty t-shirt, a rasta-colored knit cap, knee-length work trousers and untied shoes. He smelled of sweat, dust, blood, gunpowder, gun oil, and marijuana. Yo, good to see you, brother. I'm Simon, a businessman. I'll get you anything you want, as long as there's money. In front of him is a podium-like counter table on which he lazily rests his weight. There are a number of gold jewelry on his fingers and neck and an abundance of watches on his wrist. This is that, right? The market may be a market, but it's a black market, isn't it? Whoa. Calling underground stuff black is racist. You know? Stop kidding. Even the black and whites call it yellow when it's cheap. I need a favor. I need you to give me a way out of this mess. Simon, the Rastaman who smells of marijuana, snorts and looks around. There was a group of naked men and women. I don't know if it's a tragedy or a comedy, but it doesn't look right to anyone. I don't know what kind of predicament you're in, but I don't think you should be asking me for help. I'm a businessman, you know. The only thing between you and me is money and goods. If we end up happy, we can move on. If not, then we're done. Do you understand? I understand. I understand it very, very well. Because I noticed it, in a world that I thought was standing still, I noticed that some figures were slowly moving. Yeah, it happens sometimes. The kind of game where time doesn't stop in the middle of a battle when you open the menu screen. The kind of game that puts you in a real-time crisis situation and forces you to make decisions. Horror games, shooting games, strategy games. Oh, shit. Well then, sell me some weapons, some powerful weapons. Of course, you're welcome, but do you have the money? By the way, you have to pay in US dollars. I didn't accept credit cards, and credit payments are out of the question. Euros are also acceptable, though at a much lower rate. Gold or diamonds. If it comes with a guarantee, I'll make a reasonable concession. Money? Oh, money. That's right. Then Simon put on a deep tin plate on the counter table. It looked like a dog's water bowl, but in essence, it was an offering to my god. How about Japanese yen? What's that? Yen? To. You're Japanese. Konnichiwa. Arigato. Komujiko kanikada. T/N. He tried to speak Japanese, although I don't get what he's saying at the end. Komujiko equals wheat flour, though. I'm not going to go into it. So what do you think? Shit, I don't think I could take a minor local currency. Think of it as common sense, okay? It's annoying, but it's logical. I have no idea who this guy is, where he came from, or how he operates, and I don't particularly want to know. But it's crazy to think that someone from a black market in the Middle East or Africa would accept Japanese yen. Even when I was a salaryman, I wouldn't accept Chinese yuan for business transactions in Japan. In the first place, a poor salaryman on his way home from work has only a small change, a credit card, a commuter pass, and a few thousand-yen notes. I have no idea what the price of a weapon is, but a weapon that can be bought with a 1,000-yen note is probably not a good deal. So, how about you buy these? I took out a stripped sword from my storage and hurriedly placed it on the offering plate when I saw Simon's hand around his waist. I then took out the sheaths and added 4 more sets. There was no response from Simon, as if it wasn't enough. Time is running out, and maybe my magic will run out soon. That would free up the time that had been stopped, leaving me unarmed and unprepared. I took out the dresses, the candlesticks, the armor, and put them on the counter, and put the king's crown and the queen's and princess's jewelry on top of them. It's almost like buying on credit, you know. It takes time, and the rate is. Don't bother with the rates. Take it for a pile of money, you thief. You can sell all this stuff for less than $1,000, no matter where you sell it. In exchange, give me the weapons. We'll settle this next time. Simon laughed and extended his hand that had been around his waist towards me. In his hand was a pistol in a familiar shape from war movies. It's enough to put my mind at ease as a military otaku. 1911, huh? That helps. The M1911, or Colt Government as it is known in Japan, is the predecessor to the U.S. military's regulation pistol. The M1911 is now replaced by the Beretta M9, an Italian 9mm pistol, but the thick, heavy .45 caliber, 11.2 mm, ammunition used in the M1911 is popular with some in the military and civilian sectors for its hitting power, which is akin to a religious belief. Though the moment I held it in my hand, I felt slight discomfort and a bad feeling. The design of each part is slightly different from the Colt. I know. I wondered if it wasn't a modified A1, but that wasn't the point. This is a Spanish copy, isn't it? Oh, you know exactly what it is. It's the same .45 caliber as the original, and it's been well maintained and sighted in. Careful, it's already loaded in the chamber. The firing pin is up. All you have to do is remove the thumb-operated safety, and it's ready to fire. 6 rounds in the magazine. Cock and lock, ready to fire. It is loaded with a total of 7 bullets. There are 5 knights, a hero, a sage, and a mage. If I exclude the king and queen and princess and saint, it is not even enough for 1 shot each. What about spare magazines? Unfortunately, I don't like to carry them because if a quarrel doesn't end after 7 shots, it won't end after tens of thousands. Yes, indeed. That's what trouble is all about, and that's what you're here for, isn't it? The man hands me a handful of strips of ammunition from his pocket. I put them in my suit pocket without even counting them. This is only a comfort. If I have time to reload, then I'm out of danger. I bet. Well, I hope to see you again soon. The man disappears into the light with the spoils of war from the royal family. Time starts to move. I pointed the muzzle of my gun at the knights who jumped at me at once, and I pulled the trigger. I was connected to Earth's black market from another world with the skill market. Chapter 5 to 7. Here's the chapter. Enjoy. Chapter 5, Arrow of Retribution. Every time I pull the trigger, the knights roll around noisily. Well, they were actually bounced. First, 5 bullets, 5 men. One by one, the bullets are sucked into the center of their chests and fly away, spewing blood from their backs. I didn't even check the type of warhead, but it's obvious that it's not a coated conventional bullet. The ejection hole is too big, and it's the type of bullet that will collapse and spread inside the body, inflicting a fatal wound. A person carrying a handgun loaded with such bullets is surely not a good thing. Where did you get that gun? That's a company secret. I'm a merchant, you know, and there's a lot more where that came from. In response to the thin macho hero or sage's question, I smile and play the bluff. In my mind, I was wondering which of the 2 remaining bullets I should shoot at. It would be troublesome to leave any of them unharmed. I wish I had time to load more bullets in my pocket. I guess I can't. I don't think it's acceptable to point a gun at royal families and heroes. I do. You're the one who started it. If you're not going to let me leave here alive, I'm going to have to kill you. Hey, let me ask you something. What do you think this situation is about, other than killing each other? I shot a bullet into the chest of the gorilla macho who stepped in from my blind spot. Perhaps, because of his martial arts defense, he crossed his arms, and his huge body fell forward. The bullet does not escape to the backside. There was a strange feeling of being bounced off a transparent wall. I wasn't sure if I should shoot him or not, but I pointed the muzzle of my gun at the thin man. His handsome face twisted in fear and humiliation. Die. Ignoring the opponent's movement who tries to escape to the rear, I swung the muzzle and shot the last shot into the mage. The mage, who was trying to set up some kind of magical barrier to protect the heroes, stood there with a look of surprise on his face. The bullet that hit him in the forehead blew off the back of his head and sprayed the royals behind him with cerebral plasma. It seems that he was not prepared to defend himself, either because he could not cast 2 spells at once or simply because of priority. The pistol, which had fired all its rounds, was in a hold-open position with a slide down. It is unlikely that a Japanese civilian would see it and notice that it is out of ammunition, but I store it away just in case. Ignoring the screams and shouts, I run out of the room. Whether or not I'll make it out alive is a matter of 5 minutes, and this means that I am one big step away from this critical situation. Chapter 6, The Revival of an Old Soldier. After escaping the white chalk room, I ran through the corridor and up the stairs. I pulled out the magazine of the M1911 and loaded it with bullets from my pocket. The warhead is bare of lead and has jagged slits in it. That's why the ejection hole looks like mincemeat. I loaded 7 rounds into the chamber and was about to refill the magazine with 1 less, when I stopped. Simon had left 6 rounds in the magazine, which might have caused a malfunction if fully loaded. There were only 2 rounds left. Unless you finish at 7, huh? It's not over, damn it. I can't fight the world's most powerful fucking kingdom and its shitty heroes with 7 bullets. As I ran through the corridors, I stored every piece of armor, decorative weapons from the walls, paintings, vases, and carpets that were on this floor. If I steal and redeem all of them, the stubborn Rastaman will be a little more willing to negotiate. Putting aside the ordinary soldier, it's no joke to take a gun against a hero or a sage. As I went up the stairs further, I saw the light shining into the floor from the window. I seem to have reached the surface floor. There are 2 guards in breastplates in front of the entrance and 2 on patrol, or guards as they are called. There were also 3 guards just visible at the top of the stairs on the front side of the entrance. There is no reason why there should not be soldiers on the way to the gates of the castle, both beyond the entrance and further beyond, and in the first place, I won't say that I succeeded in escaping until I left this country. I don't know how much distance and obstacles there are in between, but the sound of gunfire is bound to draw more and more soldiers. Of course, I don't have the skill to use the static kill method, and 7 rounds are already far from enough. It's a dead end. isn't it? I'll have to listen to the voice of God. Market. Oh, brother, you've come to the right place. As soon as the white light faded, Simon, his head and neck covered in jewelry, was smiling at me. I'm sorry about earlier. I didn't trust you until I appraised it, and it appears that it was worth a lot of money. At least the precious metals will be worth at least $25,000. I've decided to keep it for a while, though, because I'm afraid it will get hammered if I sell it too quickly. That's all right. If you don't do too badly, I'm sure you'll get 10 times that. The jewel is the treasure of the kingdom, after all. I'm sure it's not an imitation. How much for the M1911 copy? By the way, 3,000. It's my favorite tuned-up piece. About 300,000 yen? The market price should be lower than that, of course, but I don't know whether it's expensive or cheap in this situation. Well, for the first transaction, the asking price is acceptable. I shrugged my shoulders and urged him on. The armor and swords are in the hands of an art dealer, waiting to be appraised. Once they've been appraised, what do you want to do with the changes? Do you want your dollars back? No, I want the real stuff. I want 2 assault rifles, 3 spare magazines each, and 3,000 rounds of ammunition. 10 hand grenades if you have them. I don't have any grenades. I'll look for an old one if you like. As for assault rifles, I have AKM, FALs, and G3S in stock and MAC-10s and Uzis if you want submachine guns. Yes, the lineup looks African and old. If it's an AK, I want it to be a Kalashnikov. No copies from Eastern Europe or Asia. Naturally, I have no experience using them, but from what I've read in the documentation, none of the copies have been very popular. Oh shit, that's not good. Out of the corner of my eye during the conversation, I saw a soldier notice me and start to move slowly. You're always on the take, aren't you? Can you get away with an AKM? Well, it's still greasy, but it's an old Soviet one. I stored the 2 automatic rifles, magazines wrapped in greaseproof paper, and a box of ammunition. In return, I put the things I took from the castle on the offering plate. We'll settle up later. See you later. Simon hands me one last thing, an AKM magazine. This one is brand new, and it's the only one I've got loaded. Good luck. Time is running out, and the world starts to move at once. Damn it, I should have asked for a gun with a silencer. Chapter 7, Escape from the Royal Castle. I decided to wipe out the enemies in the room with my pistol first. Of course, I have nothing personal against them, but if I don't kill them now, they will kill me. I have no ability to escape from captivity. I have no friends and no political backing. At the moment, everyone else in this world is my enemy. I fired 2 shots at 2 soldiers who were coming towards me. One of them rolled over and stopped moving, while the other one was hit in the breastplate with the sound of a coin and a high-pitched clang. Oh, really? It is unclear whether the breastplate had a defensive spell or the angle was wrong, or whether the exposed lead warhead did not have enough penetrating power, but at this point, the remaining bullets in the M1911 had no chance of solving the problem. I shot him in the exposed face, kicked him off, and pointed the muzzle at the following soldiers. Should I aim at the exposed part or prioritize hitting it? There is no time for using storage either. If I strip off his armor and am still held by a naked soldier, I'd be done for. I took advantage of their approach and shot a bullet into his face. One more. The last 4 are neutralized. With 2 bullets left, it's impossible to deal with the 3 who are running down from the upper floor. I put away my pistol and switched to the assault rifle. At that moment, an unpleasant sensation spreads across the palm of my hand. Simon. Perhaps it was for maintenance, but the AKM's body and wooden parts, such as the gunstock, were covered in grease, and some of it was almost caked on. When I pulled the heavy bolt handle, I was relieved to find that it worked surprisingly smoothly. The curved magazine is inserted by hooking the front end. The large selector lever on the side of the receiver is lowered to disengage the safety and switch from fully automatic firing to single-shot firing. The recoil of the large caliber 7.62 mm ammunition is so great that fully automatic firing will only result in the ammunition being scattered around me, especially as I am new to axe. I've heard that's the way it's designed, but I'm not going to put up a pointless barrage with only one loaded magazine. The sound of the heavy, powerful shot and the recoil. This time the ejection energy was 4 or 5 times greater, and the warhead weighed an order of magnitude more, so the bullet struck the breastplate lightly and engulfed the soldier behind it, scraping the stairs. But just as I was relieved, the front door was opened, and 3 soldiers with swords came in. With 3 single shots from the AKM, they rolled over and stopped moving. In order to secure the remaining ammunition for the assault rifle, I take out one of them on the stairs with the remaining 2 rounds of the pistol. He doesn't seem to be instantly killed, but his breastplate is broken off. He can't move, and it's only a matter of time before he dies. After confirming that no reinforcements are coming, I take out my AK mags and a box of 7.62mm rounds from storage. I load them, struggling with the stiff spring, and secure 4 mags with 30 rounds. As a reward for my efforts, I took the soldier's armor and interior decorations. This makes me look like a terrorist on the run, not a hero out of danger. I let out a sigh and started moving out the door. The main gate of the royal castle is naturally guarded by guards. Would it be possible to hide behind the luggage of the outgoing merchants and nobles? With no contacts or acquaintances, no connections or money to bribe, the only option is to threaten them, but it's hard to get them to comply if they don't understand the threat of guns. What I lack now are knowledge, experience, and allies. I know what I need, but I don't know where to get it. I could go in head-on with my gun, but then it would be like a big action movie where I fight until I run out of ammunition. And that's probably where I'll die. The world of swords and magic means that there will be offensive magic, and before that, even if someone shoots an arrow at me using a bow, I have no way to prevent it. It's a problem. If I follow the template, the first step is to go to an orphanage or a slave dealer to get a party member who will follow me and adore me, or maybe to get a follower through a chance encounter or a blossoming talent. But maybe not. I may be able to kill with a strange weapon or use a strange spell that can steal things, but those are not the kinds of abilities that earn respect or loyalty. Name: Taiki Fuyoshiaki. Occupation: Merchant of Death, Terrorist. Rank: 01. Physical strength: 22 magic power, 11 attack, 24 resistance, 49 defense, 54 agility, 43 intelligence, 69 cordage. 01. Skills: Appraisal, 78 teleportation, 05 storage, 108 market, 09. Let's ignore the new jobs for now. As you can see, there is a slight increase in the number, except for the cordage. My magic seems to have recovered a little, so I measure the distance as I move in the shadows. It's a short distance to the end of the castle gate, and that's where my magic ran out. I was connected to Earth's black market from another world with the skill market. Chapter 8 to 9. Here's the chapter. Enjoy. Chapter 8. A sudden encounter. I was lying in a heap at the entrance of the alley, unable to move due to the rapid depletion of my magic power. I was able to teleport from the castle gates to a straight line of houses and shops in what appeared to be the nobles' district, but this was probably the maximum range of visibility that I could afford. The distance is about 200 meters. In other words, it is possible to teleport at that range with the remaining 11 magic power. This is good in itself. The problem is that it is in a straight line from the castle gate, which also means that it is visible to the guards guarding the gate. Damn it. Oh, geez. I encourage my weak limbs to crawl to the shadows, my vision on the verge of blackouts, and try to pull my AKM out of storage, but then I stop myself. The assault rifle is too conspicuous. If I were to lose consciousness, it would be the end of me. I don't think it's possible to recreate it with the industrial strength of this world, but if it's pointed at me, I have no way to counter it. I moved to the back of a dimly lit alley to find a safe zone where I could rest until my magic was restored. Oh, for heaven's sake. There were people there before me. There were 5 thug-like men with daggers at the ready. One of them is holding a girl's hand and trying to cover her mouth with his other hand. The girl is wriggling around, trying to escape, but her body, which probably weighs less than half a pound, seems unable to move. I took out the M1911 copy and loaded it with the last 2 rounds I had left. Oh, shit. A shot fired in this place would echo for several blocks. If it were a slum, I'd probably ignore it, but this is a noble district. The guards and officers will hear the noise and come. Then there would be a battle. Although I may be able to build a pile of dead bodies, it is impossible to escape with a body on the verge of fainting. It's only a matter of time before it ends here. But that's the thing. That girl is so small. The man's wrist, which she had grasped with all her might, bent at a right angle. Oh, ew. The girl's sharp hooks cut deep into the side of the man's body as he turned away from her with a shriek. Seeing their companions rolling around with blood spewing from his mouth, the remaining 4 men kept their daggers at the ready and kept their distance. Do you think you'll be able to get away if you go against the nobility of the kingdom? Thud. Then one of the men flew into the air with a dull sound. He was slammed into the wall and bounced to the ground, his crushed body not moving an inch. You think? In the girl's hand who spoke as she spat, there was a handy weapon. That is to say, the leg of the first man who was beaten was held in her hand. She grabbed his ankle and swung it around, probably hitting the other guy. With my mouth hanging open, all I can do is watch the scene unfold. Damn you! The weapon flashes again, this time with a light, dampened sound. The first blow seems to have shattered the man's head, and he was torn to pieces in a spectacular spray of brain, bone, and blood. Just as the other men, covered in blood and flesh, turned their heads away, the girl grabbed a dagger that was lying on the ground and plunged it through the back of the nearest one. In a single movement, she turns around and strikes another. However, the last one reacted very differently. The steadiness of his hips and the quickness of his step, the precision of his grasp of the situation and his ruthlessness, not hesitating to sacrifice a friend, indicate that he was clearly an expert. The man goes around the blind spot, and a tremendous slash hits the girl from behind. The man's strength flung her body away from the dagger, which he held up as quickly as he could. The small body that rolled while bouncing like a football ball is. It landed on my stomach, where I was leaning against the wall, quietly draining my breath and consciousness. Chapter 9, Give and Take. You. The surviving man looked at me and furrowed his brow slightly. An unfamiliar man in unfamiliar clothes, with unfamiliar hair and in unfamiliar face shape. I know I look suspicious, but you can't blame me for that. Oh, don't worry about me. I'll go away after a short rest. I need your help. My voice was muffled by pain and suffering. The girl kept her face down as she clung to me. Oh, she's an Ojulili. I've never seen one before. An out-of-place admiration flashed through my head and then disappeared. To be honest, if she had the strength and stamina to do that kind of heavy lifting, I'd rather have her help me. But that's not good. The dagger was blown away by the previous attack, and her arms and legs were limp as if she had been injured somewhere. I never thought there would be a fool in this country who would risk his life for a single dwarf. That's a terrible misunderstanding. I'm just a merchant here. I'm just resting for a while. I felt like a fool, but I bet on the slight possibility that the man might let me off the hook. Now the wager is over. But then the man comes strolling towards me, daggers at the ready in both hands. The look on his face, full of murderous intent, indicates that I've lost the bet. It's give and take. T/N, he said it in English. I say to the girl, and she slowly raises her head at my voice. Up close, her eyes and nose are well defined, and her face is not as young as I had expected. Her messy, curly hair was shiny and lustrous, and she looked young and well-bred. I believe the word dwarf was used to describe her, so perhaps she is not just a little girl, despite her appearance, but a rather small-built race. However, the puzzled look on her face suggests that she doesn't understand the words I'm saying. Jib, what? I'll help you, but you have to help me. If that's okay with you, I'll give you a hand. All right, the deal is done. But before we could do anything, the man had gathered up all his strength and started slashing. I took out the M1911 copy from my pocket, pointed it at him, and pulled the trigger. There is a bang sound, and the man stops moving. The warhead is sucked into the center of his chest, spilling blood and flesh behind him. The man puts his hands on his chest, stares at me, and drops his weapons from his hands as if he were observing a strange phenomenon. What, for? His voice is muffled, blood spurts from his mouth. His eyes turned upwards, and he fell on his back, motionless. What the hell was that? Please, I can't move right now. From here, I want to get out of this city, and if possible, out of this country. If you help me, I will tell you. Depending on the conditions, I can give it to you. It's up to you. With only one round left, I put the M1911 copy on safety and put it back into storage. That's when I lost consciousness. I was connected to Earth's black market from another world with the skill market. Chapter 10. Sponsored chapter by Patreon. Enjoy. Chapter 10. Those Who Stand in the Way. I was slightly awakened by the sensation that made me having trouble sleeping. It seemed that I was being carried somewhere. I felt like I was being rolled onto the back of a carriage as I felt the wooden planks and the shaking as I moved. There were burlap sacks around me, and it smelled like sweat and sebum. I didn't think much of it and soon lost consciousness again. At that moment, I pulled out the pistol from storage. Maybe. I'm sorry, sir. When I woke up, I found myself in a dimly lit cave, with the dwarf girl kneeling in front of me. They're doing dojesa in this world, too, huh? T/N, kneeling down on the ground. Oh, and where are we? It's a cave that seems to have been a bear's den in the forest near the royal capital. I have put up a simple ward to keep the surrounding monsters and predators away. It won't work against strong monsters or humans, but I was thinking of waiting for nightfall to move on. Yes. Thank you very much for your help. I'm Takefu Yoshiaki. And you are? My name is Miral. Are you, by any chance, a nobleman, Takefu Yoshua-sama? You don't need to be so polite. No, I'm a commoner. Or rather, I'm from a country where there are no nobles. By the way, Yoshiaki is my name. Yosh. Okay, you can call me Yoshua. So, what were you so afraid of? Oh, Miral held out a linen cloth. There was an M1911 copy pistol on top of it, and it was in pieces. She must have disassembled it out of curiosity, but she could not reassemble it. Well, that's okay because I have an assault rifle anyway. I was relieved that she didn't fire it off for fun. Yeah, give me that. During normal disassembly, the barrel is polished by shoving in a stick wrapped with a piece of cloth. I think I've read that a warhead without a copper coating leaves lead in the barrel. I also check that all the moving parts are in good condition and that nothing is broken. I don't think she'd notice at first that she had to pull out the slide stop with the magazine removed, but I'm amazed she managed to disassemble it this far. The cleaning kit was included in the magazine ammunition I received with the AKM. Simon, he might be the clever type. Disassembling and reassembling a gun is a basic skill for a military attack gun enthusiast, something I've done hundreds of times with model guns. Miral looked at me with a look of admiration as I quickly reassembled it. She looks younger than me, but her age seems to exceed her size. How old are you, if you don't mind me asking? Even though I look like this, I'm 17. She stretches her small chest out with a sniff, but it's like she actually made an onomatopoeic sound. I decided not to get into that too much and thought about the age gap between us. Half my age, huh? Miral's eyes widen when she hears my unintentional mumbling. Why are you surprised? I'm 34. They say people in my country look younger, though. Sure, your face looks young, but I thought you might be much older than that, given your mature eyes. Oh, I see. I think I've got a tired face and eyes like a dead fish. From there, the conversation continued for a while. It seems that Miral is a skilled blacksmith at a young age, even among the dwarves who have many skilled blacksmiths. A nobleman wanted to take her out of the workshop, but she didn't like his attitude, and when she refused, he harassed her and almost killed her. Why is that? He wants to get his hands on a talented craftsman, right? If he kills you, that would be the end. I made a weapon, but it's not just any weapon. The nobleman said that it could change the war. Oh, I see. He'd rather erase it than let it fall into someone else's hands. Because it was a duke's house, I have become a most wanted person in the kingdom. I feel sorry for her. I would like to help her. However, the king and his heroes party are also looking for me, so it can't be helped. So, what kind of a thing is that? It's a mechanical bow that shoots iron arrows. I want to show it to Joshua, but the original one has been taken away. That is a crossbow, I think. Or maybe it's some kind of larger siege weapon. Either way, that's probably true. It requires no skill or experience to use, has a consistent range and accuracy, and above all, it can penetrate armor. Rather than changing the war, it uproots the advantage of the nobility. If the numbers were right, they could overwhelm any regular army or cavalry. Of course, it won't be that easy if you actually do it. It's not a simple matter of having it at hand for comfort. In the past, it was like a weapon of mass destruction, and one would think that it should be concealed and destroyed at the earliest opportunity. What's the matter? I thought it would be hard. Maybe they were really going to kill Miral. Yeah. Why? I've been a good girl. I don't think a normal 17-year-old would develop a convenient annihilation weapon. What's more disturbing is her first-person pronoun. It looks like she was trying to hide it earlier, but her excitement brought her back to her usual way of speaking. Miral, are you some kind of nobleman or something? Well, I think she was trying to tell me how I knew that, but I don't think there are any commoners using warawa for their first-person pronouns. Then Miral shrugged her shoulders sadly at my silence. I'm a descendant of a ruined country. I don't want to be reminded of my status. Do you have any acquaintances in the workshop or anything you don't want to leave behind? I don't have any. My mechanical bow was taken from me, and the workers are the same scum who sold me. They despised me in their hearts. Even though you're skilled, that's the reason. You know, you can see that happens when someone is younger than you and better than you. I can understand that. That was the end of the story. Joshua wants to leave the kingdom, doesn't he? That would be perfect for me. But then there is the problem of the means of transport. It would take 7 days by foot on the road, and if we go in hiding, it will take 3 times that. I don't know how far 7 days on foot is. Is it about 300 kilometers? If the roads are poorly maintained, it could be more. We indeed need to secure a means of transportation. It's not possible to travel long distances by repeating the teleportation, considering the magic consumption. Yes, you're right. Just wait here for a moment. Leaving Miral in the cave, I moved to the edge of the forest. After making sure that there were no people or monsters around, I called up the black market. Oh, brother, I haven't received the results of the appraisal yet. No, it's about something else. I need a vehicle for transportation. Something that can carry 2 people, but not too conspicuous. On second thought, that's impossible. The only vehicles that are inconspicuous in this world are probably wagons or carriages. I don't need to use the back part because I can carry stuff in the storage. I don't want to use a living creature for escaping either because it would be too expensive to maintain, and I wouldn't be able to store it in case of an emergency. Inconspicuous vehicles, huh? No, forget about that. I don't care what it looks like. Do you have a cheap, low-maintenance motorbike, car, or ATV? You'll pay for it from the consignment, right? Yes, that's right. If that's not enough, I can pay for more. No, I think I can give you about 20,000 as a rough estimate. That's right. Oh, you're Japanese, aren't you? I have a good one for you. He grinned, and I have a bad feeling about this. 3,000. No, 2,000 is fine. It runs well and won't break down. It can carry a lot of people, and it looks good. No, I don't care about the looks. Or rather, hey. I was stunned when I saw the vehicle appear. It was an old, medium-sized, one-box car with a face on the front. Well then, thank you for your continued patronage. Hey, Simon. Simon cut the connection in a phony Kansai dialect that I don't know where he learned it from. I let out a sigh and turned around to see a dwarf girl peeking at me from behind a tree, probably out of curiosity. She's still not moving, though. Miral, well, that's fine. There is no need to hide it now. Miral, who began to move after a moment's pause, seemed to be more interested than surprised by what she saw. She runs around and touches the car body, tapping it and peeking here and there with sparkling eyes. Is this some kind of monster-type magic tool? Joshua, are you a mage? No, I'm not a mage. It's a merchant's skill. And this is a microbus for kindergarten. On the side of the body is written in Japanese Niko kindergarten. It even has a green number from the northern Kanto region on it. I guess it was exported overseas from a scrap car and ended up in Simon's country. The smiling, fang-bearing bare face on the front is surreal, though. There are bullet holes all over the car's body as if it has been through a lot. Some of the side windows are also broken and have been covered with cardboard and duct tape. What is kindergarten? It's like an orphanage for kids who still have parents. You don't have to understand it. Come on, let's go. Get in from there. The door was left open, so I climbed in and had a quick look around the car. Some of the seats had been removed, but most of them were still usable. I ignore the reddish-black stain on the floor and head for the driver's seat. The key is still in the ignition, and after a few twists and turns, the engine starts. The tachometer isn't moving, but when I tap the board, the needle begins to wobble. The fuel gauge was just over half full. Assuming it's working properly, that is. I tried the lever on the side of the door to see if it would close, and it did, with a creak. There was still a small gap, but I ignored it. I get the excited dwarf girl in the front row and put her seatbelt on, and I sit down in the driver's seat. It's been a long time since I've driven a car with a manual transmission. I press down on the clutch, adjust the accelerator, shift the gears and start the car. As soon as the car is moving, I check the brakes. The brakes seem to be working a little sluggishly, but there's no problem. It's moving. I drove the microbus out of the forest and onto a bumpy, muddy road, being careful not to break the tires. As I reached a wide country road, I made sure there was no sign of life and sped up a little. It's fast. It's much faster than a donkey and a horse. Yes, that's right. More than twice as fast as a horse. I thought a horse could go 40 or 50 kilometers an hour at full speed. I don't really remember. But this car, even though it's a piece of junk, can go at least 100 kilometers per hour. The road is not paved, so it won't go that fast. Twice as fast as a horse. Only a flying monster can go that fast. What's going on? What's making this thing move? A magic stone? There's no magic circle anywhere, and there's no sign of magic either. It's called gasoline. It is a kind of oil that burns well. The power of its combustion turns a pulley at the engine's core, which in turn transmits the power to the wheels through a series of iron gears. It might not be exactly true, but I don't know the details of cars and engines. Perhaps because of her race that she is so keen to learn about machinery. The dwarf girl let out a breath of admiration. Gasoline. I've never heard of it. Yes, it is a refined form of oil that is pumped up from the ground, but I don't think it is possible in this country. Can I disassemble it? No, please don't. When I have more money, I'll buy you a smaller engine. Really? That's a promise. If she is going to touch it, it would be better to start with an air-cooled single-piston motorbike or something. I'd rather use the microbus from now on, if possible. It was a pleasant ride for a while as nightfall was approaching. I wondered whether we should camp here or turn on the lights and get some more distance when I saw something shiny ahead. Miral, what do you think that is? A battle. It's a light of magic. It's half a mile away, and at this speed, we'll be within combat range by the time we've counted to 20. I turned away from the road and got out of the car in the shade from the direction of the light. Miral nodded regretfully when I told her that we would be traveling on foot. You're not going to throw this away, are you? No, I'll store it. The dwarf girl rolled her eyes as she watched the microbus disappear in an instant. Rather than being surprised, she seemed to think it was just one more toy to enjoy. We continue past the battlefield and around the mountainside. The forest gets thicker and becomes more difficult to move, but it's much better than getting caught up in some crazy battle. Do you think they can see us? I don't know, but we'll soon find out. It was the mage who was up there, so if he could see us, he could. There was a blast with a thunderous roar. When I looked back, I saw that the place I had just been was in flames. We can't just stay here. I was connected to Earth's black market from another world with the skill market. Chapter 11 to 13. Here's the chapter. Enjoy. Chapter 11. Dwarf Attack. Miral, do you know any magic? I can only use elementary defensive magic and general life magic. I don't have the skills to block those ridiculous attack spells, nor do I have any means of attack other than body enhancement. We're doomed. Huh? I don't have any magic to fight it either. Dwarves are known for their courage, brute strength, and technical prowess. Hiding and sneaking around is not our strong suit. It's better to kill them before the enemy can attack. Someone's coming. There is a shadow at the location where the magic struck earlier. A man in a black hood. He is probably a mage. As soon as he found out that there was no sign of the corpse, he immediately looked around. If he has some kind of detection magic, it's only a matter of time before he finds us. Search. I could faintly hear the mage's voice. It's a dead end. Huh? I don't have a choice here. I took my AKM out of storage and gestured to Miral to take cover. What is that? As I feared, the dwarf girl's curiosity overcame her, and she followed me to my side. She kept her voice down, but she was too excited to see what was going on. It's just a bigger gun than the one I used before. I don't know if it will work against a mage. So can you stay hidden? I will stay with Joshua, she told me with a snort, but probably and definitely not out of concern for me. There is no time to persuade her, and even if I did, she would not accept it. I gave up and took my pistol out of storage. I removed the safety, rechecked the ammunition, and with the muzzle pointed in the direction of the mage, I motioned for Miral to hold the grip. Hold this. Point it at your opponent and pull this to fire an instant death arrow. You can only fire one shot. Do not fire until you are within visual range of your opponent. Don't put your finger in the trigger guard until just before you fire. And don't ever point it at me. Okay? Understood. I know I said to take good care of it, but I only loaned it to you, okay? 2. Northeast Woods. I don't know who he was talking to, but the mage seemed to have found us and started moving towards us, cutting through the obstructions. He doesn't seem to have seen us, but in a forest where the evening darkness is becoming thicker and darker, we are at a disadvantage because we can't use detection magic, and we can't see at night. I checked the mage's figure through the iron sights of my AKM. The distance is about 15 meters. It's not a gun that requires much aiming, and I haven't adjusted the sights properly since I got it. If possible, I'd like to kill him before he gets cautious. Yosh, I can see him, I just need to be in range, right? Oh, you idiot. Don't just yosh it, you idiot. I don't know how she misunderstood or misinterpreted the situation, but she jumped out of the forest in a low posture. She used her short limbs and short stature to make a quick dash, using a barrier to close in on the mage in no time at all. Then there was a high possibility of a misfire, and now I couldn't shoot. I couldn't leave her alone, so I ran after her. Rather, this role is a diversion, a decoy. I wielded my rifle prominently on the opposite side of Miral and aimed while standing so that it would be visible. Damn, you've got to be kidding me. You are. Miral was already standing right next to the mage. Looking straight into the eyes of the man who looked back at her, the Nojulali laughed. I can see you. The .45 caliber bullet landed on the man's nose, and due to the height difference, it went through the top of the man's head, splattering his skull and brain plasma into the air. Without looking back at the falling man, Miral gestures in the direction of the forest. They're coming. From what I can see, there are 1 mage and 4 heavy cavalries. The crisis didn't end. Reinforcements arrived. Though, I'm not sure why she looks so happy about it. Chapter 12. Annihilation of enemy soldiers. I looked around for a place to hide. They seemed to be coming through a winding path between the woods, which was not a good situation for a long-range gun. A little further from the edge of the forest, there was a place where a slope had collapsed, and there was a large rock that Miral and I could hide behind. We both ran into the shade of the rock and caught our breath before the enemy arrived. Is it possible to shoot now? I don't have any ammunition available right now. And even if I had, I wouldn't have time to teach you how to load it. Maybe later. I'll look forward to it. This girl, don't give me that. It was a promise look anymore. I saw a figure coming through the woods. I took my AKM and timed my shot. He was a heavy cavalryman, so of course, he was riding a horse. The weapon in his hand was a long spear. He also has a sword on his hip, but it is an auxiliary weapon. I can't see the mage whose presence is vital. If possible, I'd like to defeat him first, as he is the biggest threat to us right now. Miral, who was watching the cavalryman on alert in the surroundings, looked back at me and tilted her head. You're not going to shoot? SHH. The mage. Where is he? It seems that Miral has sensed my intentions and has begun to watch the surroundings. It's not like she is using detection magic, she's simply utilizing her ears, eyes, and senses. Her gaze traces something and then turns to the back of us. Joshua. Hellfire. Dance to the breath of darkness, firestorm. A man in a black robe shouted, waving his staff. He was planning to go around our back, but when he realized that he had been discovered, he changed his mind to attack with magic. Miral and I threw ourselves in opposite directions, and a spiral of fire passed between us. It seemed to have scraped off the rocks where we had been hiding and grazed the cavalryman, causing the neighing of horses and shouts of anger to rise behind us. The mage seemed to be in a panic because his aim was off, and he seemed to be torn between running away and attacking again. The distance between us is less than 10 meters, and he seems less experienced than the first mage we killed. Protect His Highness. From the shouts of the heavy cavalryman, I guessed that he was an inexperienced royalty with an aptitude for magic. The master mage failed to remove the enemy, and he's here to avenge him. I don't care. We're unrelated and have nothing to blame. Who are you to attack us on your own? It doesn't matter if you're a prince. I shoulder-mounted the gun and fired a single shot. The bullet in his chest caused His Highness to fall as if the thread had been broken. Your Highness. I heard the sound of hooves and turned around. The cavalries rushed forward, spear points held horizontally. The men shouted in anger, confident that they would overrun us in a few seconds. Oh, you lowlife, damn it. Do they think that just because they're wearing armor and riding horses that they're alone in a safe zone? Do you intend to bring down the merciless hammer like a god? Just like the royalty who tried to kill me after dragging me in on their own. I'll never forgive you. I will tear you all to pieces. The first shot. The head of the leading horse popped and tilted, and the cavalryman who was hit by the piercing bullet fell backward. One of the following horses was caught up in the fallen horse and was sent flying. One shot struck the body of a cavalryman who was close behind. Another well-aimed shot at a cavalryman who had slowed down, perhaps frightened by seeing his comrades or superiors fall one after the other. Finally, I pointed the gun at the fallen and groaning survivor and looked at Miral. Is there any more enemy? No, I can't see any. That's the last of them. What shall I do? The dwarf girl's intentions were clear as she stared with sparkling eyes. Will you let me shoot too? I knew it. You don't mind killing a human being, do you, young girl? It's a little late for that. I've already had my hands on a few people. Even if it was to protect myself, I'm not good enough to show mercy to those who have tried to kill me. It would be a noble sacrifice to gain valuable skills and experience. With half amazement, I put on the safety and handed the AKM to Miral. I confirm the direction of the muzzle and the mounting of the muzzle, explain the recoil and the sound of the gun, and teach her the procedure for loading and unloading the weapon and releasing the safety. The half-dead survivor was muttering something that sounded like a curse, but we didn't care. With the situation so complicated and full of enemies, it's only a margin of error if one person's resentment or hatred increases. Put off the safety. Deactivated. Aimed. Fire. There was a bang, and Miral's body shook, and the barrel sprang up. It feels good. It looks great. But it's too damn antiquated, though. Chapter 13. After the battle, I went around the bodies, storing robes, swords, staffs, armor, clothes, harnesses, and even equipment. I leave the underwear behind, because I don't want to touch it. But then I wonder if I should move the nearly naked corpse, but decide not to. I had no obligation to take the time and trouble to protect the dignity of the dead. I've heard that if you leave a corpse unattended, it will decompose and spread pathogens, becoming the source of a plague. But I have no intention of returning to this country. I simply don't have the manpower or the strength to do it. I'm sorry to trouble the neighbors even though I don't know if there are any. Miral, what's over there? The area where the battle took place remains quiet. Perhaps we've killed them all. Do you know who they are? Probably the third prince of the kingdom and his cavalry guard. Do you know any of the royal family? I used to work in the blacksmith's workshop. You know, there is no way I know them, especially since subhumans are treated like livestock in the kingdom. Then how do you know him? There are only 3 princes in this kingdom. The first 2 are much older, an archer and a swordsman. The third prince is the only one who has the aptitude to be a mage, which is unusual for a royal family. I felt like there was a word that bothered me in the middle of the conversation. But Miral went on and on. She said that everyone in the kingdom knows the story of the magician prince. I don't feel good about it. The wizard prince. That means he's the star of old virgins. T/N. There is a saying that an old virgin in Japan is called a wizard. I see. I'm not sure why such a large group of people needed to conduct a battle, or annihilation or whatever magic attack on such a mountain road. Whatever it is, it's clearly overkill. The only forces that can compete with these guys are platoon forces. How can such individuals be roaming around the country? She's talking about what we did to kill them, but whatever. The power of the gun is amazing. I'm sure Miral, who was forced to leave the kingdom because of inventing the same vector, understands this. I took one look at the corpse and gave a slightly bitter look. Half-mile, huh? I don't know the extent of this in this world, but let's see what did they do before. Oh, I can ride that demon beast magic tool again, can't I? I brought out the Nico kindergarten microbus from storage and set off down the forest path, which had already begun to be engulfed in darkness. I was connected to Earth's black market from another world with the skill market. Chapter 14. Sponsored chapter by Patreon. Enjoy. Chapter 14. Gimme a break. The location of the attack was quickly found. At the end of a gentle curve in the road, an old wagon had plunged into the grass on the side. The wheels on one side were broken and tilted, and wooden boxes were scattered around it. All of them were broken, shattered, burned, and some were still smoldering. There was a corpse with its palm struck against the wagon with a knife, Perhaps they were in the middle of interrogating the victim. I wondered if the cut on the neck resulted from the work being interrupted by our arrival. If that's the case, I'm sorry. I pulled the knife from the corpse's hand and laid the collapsed body down on the grass. I wiped the blood from my hands and clasped them together in front of my chest. I'm sorry, but there's nothing more I can do for this person. The horse was still alive, but it was tied to the wagon and neighing in frustration because it couldn't escape from it. From the looks of it, the horse's tail was burnt off, but it didn't seem to have any serious injuries. When I released the restraints with pity, the horse took one look at me, snorting, and then ran off somewhere. A beastman. When I looked, I saw that the hat that the dead man had been wearing had fallen off. What appeared from underneath was a pair of dog-like ears hanging high on his head. That being said, his mouth and nose also seemed to stick out a bit. So there are beastmen in this world too, huh? There are magicians, heroes, and dwarves in this world, so of course, there are. But why did they kill him? Meryl silenced me with a hand gesture. He told me to lower my posture by moving her palm up and down. And then, under the carriage, huh? Do you want me to take a look? As instructed, I quietly looked in and saw two eyes in the darkness of the tilted carriage. Whether it was anger, hatred, or caution, it gave off a dull glare. I may have let my guard down, but I also felt secure knowing that I had a gun. I may have been overconfident since I had just wiped out a dangerous enemy, believing that I was capable of handling it. In the end, I couldn't avoid the small lump that suddenly rushed at me, and I was flung away and rolled on the ground. I was hit by a blow, which was probably the most powerful blow I've ever received, right in the midsection. I choked and couldn't speak. I could see Meryl rushing towards me, looking bloodthirsty. Joshua. I gestured to Meryl that I was okay. It was painful, but that was all. After everything was over, I finally realized how stupid I was. If that thing had had a blade, I would have been dead for sure. You bastard. Meryl points her gun at the person who attacked me. There was no bullet in the gun, but it seemed to have been a threat. It was a small creature, about the same size as the dwarf Meryl, crouched low and growled. On its arms and legs were the remnants of broken chains and shackles. It was dressed in a tattered cape, with dirty, tangled hair and a beastly body odor, and on its head were pricked up dog-like ears. A werewolf? No. The color of your hair. Do you have Fenrir's blood in your veins? The dog-eared person, who was wary of us and tried to get away from us at once, turned around and walked into the microbus. Hey, wait. You Jiajan? In the confusion and fear of the dimly lit bus, the dog ears ran around as fast as it could, flailing its arms and legs, and hit its head on the steel railing, causing it to stretch. Hey, is that fellow okay? It sounded really dull. It reaps what it sows. I thought Joshua had been killed. It shortened my life. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm fine now. I was a little too careless. Good grief. I'll keep an eye on it. Joshua, go and see if there are any more survivors. Yeah, but don't kill it, okay? I won't kill it. Now, just move fast. While I was checking the surroundings for survivors, Meryl washed the beastman's wounds and gave the first aid, then applied herbs and wrapped a clean cloth around it. The cloth and water were all part of the luggage that was in the carriage. It didn't matter, the owner was dead anyway. There was one middle-aged man, the first beastman we found, and two slightly younger men who looked like guards. They were all killed, decapitated, and the two younger ones, in particular, were badly damaged, their bodies burnt to a crisp. In a shattered wooden box, there were 6 young, or maybe infant, boys and girls with shackles and collars. They were breathing but weak and unconscious. From the looks of it, all of them, including the dead adults, were beastmen. I carried them one by one to the microbus and waited for them to recover until morning. I don't understand. What are these children doing to deserve this kind of treatment? Joshua, don't look at me like that. I think they are cute and I want to help them. What I don't know is whether they're really something worthy enough for the elite of the kingdom to come and kill. That's what I mean. Meryl remained silent and refused to speak. I'm sure there's something she wants to talk about but can't. I got out of the microbus and called Simon after taking a look around. Market. Hey, brother, I got the art dealer's appraisal. Surprisingly, it's not that bad. I've never thought about the artistic value of armor and stuff, so of course, I don't know how much is reasonable. 4 swords and 4 sets of armor cost roughly 15,000. Vases, carpets, dresses, shoes, and clothes are all 3,000. Is that cheap? Except for the sword and armor, They have almost no artistic value. The detailing isn't bad, but it's not well preserved. That's right. It's been in use for a long time. The materials used may be good, but the fabric and armor are still covered with sweat, cosmetics, sebum, and body odor. In the first place, artistic value includes the historical lineage and production background in which it was developed. The design and evolutionary path accumulated in the other world does not exist in my original world. It's no wonder that mutant objects with no backward and forward relationship, and antiques with no advanced features, are not evaluated. It's almost like the price of the material. I can't make a judgment on that, so I'll take your word for it. Considering our past and future relationship, I agreed but pointed out that I wasn't accepting it unconditionally. Simon shrugged his shoulders and snickered. It pissed me off. Okay, I'll give you a concession on the selling price. 2 AKM for 8,000. 3,000 rounds of ammunition and 6 spare mags for 5,000 including the cleaning kit. A handgun for 3,000, and a luxury Japanese car for 2,000, for a total of 18,000. I see. I guess I no longer need to do business with you. Alright, I'll find someone else. Wait. Just hear me out. Simon waved his hand hurriedly when I glared at him in annoyance. I don't know anything about the actual price of weapons, but I can tell that the price is inappropriate. The same goes for the buying price. I'm serious. Choose now. You can either keep doing business with me, or we can end this right here. Yeah, assuming you have a choice. You've been transported to a strange world, and somehow you and I are bound by a red thread of fate. I know the circumstances. I stared at him, still hiding my agitation as to how he knew. To appease my gaze, Simon held up his hands and smiled. It's true. I've heard it before. I heard that my father made a lot of money when he was still alive. But, well, the customer was eaten by a monster and died. The last deal was to send the body back home in exchange for all his money. So that means a corpse. Yeah, you can come back here. The guy went over this and that, though there was no other way to get back. I see. So the kingdom's people lied to the heroes who were summoned. I don't really think anything about it, as I'm just going to go back to being an office worker when I get home, but I am sorry for the loss of the heroes. Well, it serves them right. Why did you bring this up now? You've got a much different attitude now than you did the first time we met, don't you? Yeah, it was my father's dying wish that I should be careful when making my first deal. Don't make me laugh. So, what's it about? I forgot. Huh? It can't be helped. I heard that story 15 years ago when I was just a kid. Yeah. The first time we made a deal, the weed blew your head off. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's true. No, even before that, when I heard my dad's story, I thought it was just some drunken nonsense. That's true, too. I wouldn't believe that a gate to the other world was open to connect with a business partner. No one would believe it. Well then, I'd like to have a long and happy business relationship with you. In order to do that, I need you to be successful in that world. I'll do everything I can to accommodate you, and we'll have a mutually beneficial relationship. The only thing between you and me is the exchange of money and goods. That's what you said, right? That's right. That's what I'm saying. I'm telling you, you've got to hear me out. Simon pointed with his thumb at the precious metals that were still hanging around his head and neck. I'm willing to deal in precious metals and gold coins, if not dollars. According to my father, your coins, especially the gold ones, are less impure. So even if I buy it for the price of bullion, it will be worth more than the value of the currency there. I don't know how much times have changed here between your father's time and now. Don't you think the price might fluctuate? You'll have to judge for yourself. It's a gold coin, like this one, called the common continental gold coin. I don't know if it's an angel or a goddess, but it's got a profile engraved on it. Simon shows the OK sign with his thumb and index finger. I'll give you $500 for each one, as long as the gold content hasn't changed. 50,000 yen worth. That price tag is probably a big ripoff anyway. At the very least, Simon's side would be able to triple the price. I'll check with Miral later to see what the gold coin is worth. Well, I'll think about it, including the rate. Is it just precious metals and gold? I can take the silver coins, too, but I don't recommend it because the bullion price is much lower than the value of the coins there. I don't think copper is worth it, so don't give me that. All right. Then let's hear the price of the precious metals. And what about the additional amount of loot I gave you? Oh, I would have been very happy if you had forgotten about that. Well, no matter. The jeweler said 25,000, but I talked to the art dealer, and he said it was more like 300,000. Okay, give me 200,000 in cash. The rest is... Whoa. Wait a minute. There's no way I can move that kind of money from right to left. I've got the real thing here. If you don't wait for the right time and put it up for auction, you won't even get half of it. I can't wait that long. I'm in the middle of a life or death struggle right now. I can make payment in kind. 10 more AKM and 10,000 ammunition, 2 sniper rifles and 2,000 ammunition, an M2 heavy machine gun with 5 spare barrels and 10,000 ammunition, 2 M79 grenade launchers and 100 grenades. Which country are you going to war with? It's the strongest and largest country in this world. I sold a fight against the king of that country and the heroes that he summoned. Sooner or later, there will be a war. First, no doubt, with the national army. Is it inevitable? As much as I'd like to, yes. I've already killed the third prince. Simon put his hand on his forehead and looked up at the sky. For this guy, I'm not sure if it's troubling or gratifying to know that his business partner could die at any moment. If I die, he can pawn off the precious metals I have, but if I'm still alive, there is the possibility of a steady stream of business. In the future, I've got 10 assault rifles, 2 sniper rifles, 1 heavy machine gun, and 2 grenade launchers. I can't guarantee the M2 and M79, but I'll get them anyway. What else? Bring some rations or food storage and a gross box of food and mineral water. I'll also need 10 blankets or sleeping bags, 2 flashlights, extra batteries, and enough medical supplies to last a medic. That's... Well, I'll have some of that tomorrow. For now, just take the ones available. Well then, have a good day. The white light disappears, and I let out a sigh. He gave me a cardboard box, 2 blankets, and 2 large cans. I knew immediately what was inside the box. The cans had something written on them, but there were no pictures, and the words were not in English, so I couldn't read them. Is this French? When I turned around, I saw Meryl, who had gotten off the bus, looking at me suspiciously. Joshua, what's wrong? Do you have a stomachache? I can prepare some herbs for you if you want. The dwarf girl's belly made a small sound as she reached for my forehead with a worried look on her face. This is not the way it works. I patted Meryl, who was turning red and trying to explain herself, and pressed the object Simon had handed me into her hand. Let's eat. I can't guarantee the taste, though. That's quite a big box. What's this? MREs, military rations. In my world, it was called MREs, a substitute for food that refugees on the verge of starvation would hesitate to eat. I was connected to Earth's black market from another world with the skill market. Chapter 15 to 16. Here's the chapter. Enjoy. Chapter 15. Distant Home. I'm not saying it's good, but it's not that bad either. Meryl and I ate the warmed MREs on the bus. We built a fire a short distance away from the microbus and boiled a barrel of water in a pot we found in the wreckage of the horse-drawn carriage to boil the water. Although I had some kind of FR heater that heats up when you pour water into it, it was dark, and I couldn't really read the instructions, so since it was too much trouble, I decided to boil it in the pot. It looks interesting, though. The heater. The Beastman children were lying on the floor, covered with the blankets Simon had given me and the cloths we had taken from the carriage. Not one of them has regained consciousness yet. In the meantime, I'd like to cut off their collars. I don't know what it's made of, but my little knife won't cut it. Well, eat. You'll have a better idea when your stomach is full. In a retort pouch that looked like something out of desert camouflage, I found a piece of chicken in a rich tomato sauce, some kind of mashed potatoes, and something that looked like chili beans. Apart from that, there was some kind of damp cracker, a cheese-flavored paste, and a fruit-flavored juice made from dissolving powder, dried fruit. None of it was inedible, but it tasted medicinal or artificial, and it wasn't even good. At any rate, I wouldn't want to eat them all. The sweet fruit-flavored snack bar and the colorful sugar-coated chocolate that came as a bonus were well received by Meryl. As for the coffee, she was not used to drinking it, and even though I added powdered milk and sugar, she drank it with a complicated expression on her face. If we weren't in the middle of an escape, I wouldn't mind shooting a deer or a boar or something. In places where there are many beasts, There are also magical beasts that prey on them. You shouldn't make any more noise than necessary. I don't have the energy to dismantle them right now. I can't afford to be extravagant at this time. I'm just thankful that my stomach is full. There are magical beasts, huh? I don't know what they look like, but I certainly wouldn't want to attract one in the forest at night. Even in my former world, I heard that assault rifles, which are less powerful than hunting rifles, are not enough to deal with brown bears, for example. 7.62 x 39mm bullets used in axe have about 75% of the firing energy of hunting rifles, so they are just barely enough. However, the 5.56 by 45, west side, and 5.45 by 39, east side, bullets, which are now the mainstream of military guns, are only about half as powerful as those for hunting. They are copper-coated warheads, so they will fall out even if they hit the target, making it impossible to kill large wild animals. It's a firearm intended for use against humans in the first place. In order to protect myself in this world, I might need a more powerful firearm. I asked for a rifle for sniping, but I couldn't handle a bolt action in a situation where multiple enemies were chasing me. If it is from around WW2, the same military rifle is also used in the West with 7.62 x 51mm ammunition, almost the same ammunition used in hunting rifles. It might be possible to ask for those automatic rifles called battle rifles to distinguish them from assault rifles. It is also possible to maximize the damage to the target by using a hunting warhead that cracks inside the body, but I wonder if there is such a thing available in the black market. As I pondered this, I tried to convey it to Miral in as simple terms as possible. I wanted her to get used to firearms and support me in the future, and she may want to know about it herself. More importantly, with the conversation, the tastelessness of the MREs wouldn't bother me as much. I don't know. Bigger balls mean more power, don't they? The first number on the butt of the ammo is the caliber, the size of the warhead. The number behind it is the length of the casing, which is almost equal to the power. For example, the pistol I gave to Miral was a .45 caliber, 11.2 millimeters, which is big, but it has less powder, so it's only about a quarter as powerful as an AKM. The numbers have different letter shapes. Oh, I see. Sorry, I forgot. In the middle of our conversation, I heard a small gurgling sound of the stomach. I was in the middle of a meal, but I looked at Miral suspiciously, and she shook her head with a slightly angry expression. I followed her gaze and looked around the car, and my eyes met with what looked like a mummy man with dog ears trying to hide behind the seat. It seems that it was having trouble escaping because we were at the entrance. Oh, that's bad. Why don't you come over here and have some food? There was no reply to my question. It only growled and bared its fangs. It seems hungry but doesn't trust us. Who are you people? What are you doing here? After staring at each other for a while, the dog-eared one growled lowly in frustration. It's hard to tell the gender of a beastman when they are children, but it seems to be a girl from the sound of the voice. She seemed to be acting like a man in order to protect herself, though. When I was at a loss for a response, Miral offered a helping hand. We're just travelers who happen to be passing by. The people who attacked you almost killed us. And we struck them back. Well, it was an easy battle, though. Wasn't it? You're lying. She knows. Miral-san. It's not easy to win against that kind of force. Certainly, it was a dangerous situation when they came around. Perhaps the dwarf girl understood from my gaze. She lightly shrugged her shoulders. Well, it was a bit of a struggle, and we indeed killed them. And while we're at it, I'd like to help you guys out, too, if you want a ride back to wherever it is you're from. It's impossible. A voice full of conviction. It was too light to be called resignation. Well, let's just say it. If we ride this, dozens of miles will pass in no time at all. Kasemayan. That's where we're from. Miral's face tensed up when she heard this. The expression slipped from her face, and the blood drained slightly. I see. You're right. It's going to be hard to get there. Is it far? Miral shook her head quietly at my question. She looked back at me with a smile on her face, as if she was about to cry, and gave me a far-away look as if she were looking far behind me. It's a subhuman country about 50 miles down the road. It was destroyed about a quarter of a century ago. Chapter 16, A New Hostility. The Beastman kids woke up one after another, and Miral and I were busy opening the MREs and mixing the powder into water. Perhaps they were too hungry, but they ate without complaining. Even if there was something that didn't suit their palates, They ate it with a troubled look on their faces. We had to go outside every time to boil water. There were too many of them to accommodate in one pot. I got tired of the hassle and decided to try the FR heater. I managed to read the instructions by the light of the car's interior lamp and poured water into the pot. It immediately started to overheat, but it didn't seem to be that interesting to the people in this world who know magic. Such a shame. There were 12 MRE bags in the big box, and even if everyone ate them, there were still 3 left. When I told them to eat more if they wanted, the Beastman children shared the food. Perhaps they consume more food than normal humans. We continued on our way north. We'll pass the Kasemayan ruins on the way. You guys go back to sleep. I'll wake you when we get there. Before you do, I'd like to ask you if you knew any of the dead Beastman adults. My question was met with anxious glances from the children. When I tilted my head to see if it was difficult to answer, the dog-eared girl answered on the children's behalf. She seemed to be the oldest of them all. Those people are the Kasemayan Liberation Army. They were freeing the enslaved beastmen in the kingdom. I owe them a debt of gratitude, but it's not like I knew them. Should we bury them? Their last words to me were to leave them alone and run. Oh, as expected from adults. I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to take your word for it. I apologize for treating you like those idiots from the kingdom who attacked us on their own and got beaten back. But we don't have the manpower or tools to dig a hole. If anyone can bury them, it will be me. But there will be no one to protect me in the meantime. I pray for their souls, but I'm not related to them. When I die, I'll be on the side of the road just like them. No, I mean, Simon. I suddenly shouted, and the children shivered in fear. What is it? All of a sudden, I got off the bus and ran back to the wreckage of the carriage to collect the bodies of the dead beastmen. That's right. If they're not alive, they can be stored. I haven't tried it yet, but I don't think they will decompose in the storage. If there is a lapse of time, then that's it. I see. So that's it. What's the matter with you? What was that? What did you just do? Then, the children's collars too. Joshua, stop ignoring me and tell me what's going on. Hey, Miral. Does the collar have a curse that will kill you if you remove it? I've never heard of anything like that. It's just that it is strong and unbreakable. It would be unprofitable to use advanced magic or magical tools on each slave, even if you could. I was relieved to hear that. I checked them one by one and stored the collars. Also, the manacles and shackles. The children's faces brightened as they felt the sudden relief in their limbs and necks. What did you do? It's a storage spell. There's not a lot of magic I can use, though. That may be so, but those few spells are all insane. Miral exhaled in exasperation, but her face looked happy. Alright, let's get going. Sit on the chair or lie on the floor. Wait, the dark forest is dangerous. Don't worry. It's a magical beast-shaped tool that uses light magic to illuminate the way ahead. It was neither a magical beast nor a magical tool. But whatever. I sat down in the driver's seat and started the engine. As soon as it started moving, the kids were curious and looked out the window, but they soon rolled over and started sleeping. Miral also looked sleepy, so I told her I would wake her up if anything happened and asked her to go to the children. It was the first time for me to drive a car in complete darkness, and I was nervous at first, but the road was well maintained enough for horse-drawn carriages to pass through, and I knew that no one would be traveling the streets at night. So I decided to drive without hesitation. I estimated 80 kilometers, assuming that a mile in this world is about the same as a mile, equals 1.6 kilometers, in my former world. Before the sun rose, we had reached the 50 miles that Miral had told me about. We were already out of the forest, and what emerged out of the darkness was a huge ravine at the end of the plain. On both sides were sheer cliffs, several kilometers wide and maybe 100 meters high. The top of the canyon was flat, and there seemed to be a building, but it was too dark to tell. I stopped the car and woke up Miral. The children were sound asleep, so I left them to sleep. Oh, that's Kasemayan. It's in ruins now. No one lives there or even approaches. Whoa. Then, without warning, dozens of arrows rained down from somewhere. I hurriedly back up, honked the car horn and fled out of range. It was a curved shot that drew a boat trajectory, and the angle may not have been correct, but it hit the roof and was shot off. However, a serious combat arrowhead will break the window glass if it hits. I thought you said there was no one there. That should be. I couldn't see anyone, but a voice came from nearby. If you come any closer, I will kill you. That's right. If there is a rebel army or resistance, they will use their former home country as a base. Or rather, It's because of these people that the kingdom's elite troops went out to fight, and the slave boys and girls who escaped got caught in the crossfire. Well, I don't know what to do to clear up the misunderstanding. I'll try to persuade them. Will you be alright? I don't know. Joshua will protect me in case of an emergency, won't he? I opened the door, and Meryl went downstairs. I can't leave her alone, so I pull out my AKM and start guarding her. I asked Meryl to stop at a distance where she could run into the car at any time in case an arrow came down. I'm Meryl, daughter of Kajnail, former blacksmith of Kasemayan. If there are any representatives, please come out. There was no response for a while, but then about 10 beastmen appeared from the nearby bushes. Dogs, wolves, bears, cats, and tigers? They were of various types, but their physiques surpassed those of humans, and they carried machetes and spear-like objects in their hands. For those who are physically stronger than humans, they can always kill us at any distance. I don't see anyone with a bow. They are the vanguard, and the archers are the rearguard. They're probably still aiming from somewhere. They're probably elves. Don't make any bad moves here. Oh, so they're here. The elves. The beastmen who approached observed Meryl and smiled slightly when they saw that she was a dwarf. But when their gaze turned to me, a glint flashed in their eyes. Human. I hear a voice filled with hatred, and a slender beastman, cat or tiger or whatever it is, comes straight at me. Meryl stood in front of me without hesitation and held out her hands. Stop. He's our lifesaver. Why? You're a dwarf, and you know it, don't you? The humans killed our people. They humiliated our mothers and sisters and enslaved our children. Not this man. He has no malice, no hostility, no harm. And Meryl glanced at me behind her for a moment. If this man has hostile intentions, he is a mage with the power to turn you into corpses in an instant. The beastmen froze in unison. It's not that they were scared, but a strong murderous intent is gathering thickly around the microbus. What's that? Did you think I was the dangerous type, Meryl? I thought about storing the beastmen's weapons for a while. But when I thought about it, these guys could easily beat me to death with just their basic strength. It's not possible. Meryl is right. What's wrong? Are we the yet? The one who got off while saying that was the dog-eared girl who had been sleeping in the car. She rubbed her eyes sleepily as she walked past us without a sense of urgency. Helma? Human. What did you do to Helma? I didn't do anything to her. But then she answered for me. He killed the kingdom's mages and saved us all. The adults in the Liberation Army were killed, though. Oh, yeah, I forgot. I'm keeping the bodies of the Liberation Army members. I want to hand them over somewhere, so if you can take them, please do. Huh? What are you talking about? It's true. Joshua is a mage, even if he's scrawny. Why, Meryl-san, the way you say it. It's a little. Can you believe that? He would have put collars and shackles on the children and the dwarf while they were off their guard and made them his slaves. The collars and shackles were put on me by the kingdom's people, but this guy took them off us. He gave us food and drove us here. The beastmen who surrounded the place seemed to be puzzled and disbelieving at the explanation of the dog-eared girl who seemed to be called Helma. Meryl, can you bring the children to clear up the misunderstanding? That's no good. No, it's not going to change the situation. If I bring them, they'll think I'm taking hostages. It's more of a problem for me to move now. Don't worry about me. I'll take care of myself. That's the problem. If I leave this place, there might be a fight. Joshua can indeed protect himself, but at least the majority of the beastmen will die. If that happens, our relationship will be irreparable. That's right. I understand. I made up my mind and spoke to the tiger, or so I thought, girl who intended to kill me. Hey, you there? Don't be so aggressive. I'll be quiet. In this box are the children of the beastmen we brought back. They may be asleep, but can you bring them over? She approached warily, weapon in hand. She jumped up lightly on the side of the vehicle, looked in through the window, and entered through the door as I moved to the side. There's Minel and Cola. Kane's here too. Hey, someone come here. The tiger girl came out with a pair of sleepy children in her arms. A bear and a dog, or perhaps a wolf-like beastman, took turns entering the car. They seemed to have let their guard down a bit after confirming that the children were safe. Rather, they seemed to think that they could kill me any time they wanted to, seeing my size. Well, they're not wrong. The bear man and wolf man looked at Meryl and me and tilted their heads in wonder. For now, the machetes are sheathed, and the spears are on their backs. I don't see any intent to attack at the moment. What is your purpose? Why did you do this to them? And what is this strange vehicle? This is Joshua. He uses all sorts of strange magical tools. Both he and I are wanted men in the kingdom, and we were thinking of fleeing the kingdom. But that's impossible. The bear man replied calmly. This place is about to become a battlefield. If you want to run, that's fine. The north of the kingdom is a dark forest inhabited by monsters. In addition to this, there is also the Empire to the east and the Tribal Union to the west. Perhaps you've made up your mind? Yeah. We once escaped to the Empire, the Union, or the Dark Forest. It was the same everywhere. We either starved to death, were oppressed and killed, became slaves, or became pet animals. We've stopped living as such nomads. That's all right, then. Joshua, what are you trying to say? In such a natural stronghold, and in the motherland of an independent faction, there is no way they could just take it back. Could it be that you killed the kingdom's garrison here? I guessed right. They can't wait for war. Well, we killed the third prince and all his bodyguards, so we have no right to blame them. Myrrel looked back at me, but she didn't look me in the eye. I had a bad feeling about this. Then that's all for now. Thank you for your help, Joshua. Hey, what are you talking about? Why don't you run away with me? I'll protect you wherever we go. That's very kind of you to say. I can't run away. I can't run anymore. I don't understand. We have been running all this way. Why did you change your mind right here? Is it because you're a subhuman or something like that? That's part of it. But more than that, it's about the mechanical bow that I created and was robbed of. If my mechanical bow were to be used in a battle here, ordinary shields and armor would be no match for it. No matter how good the bravery of the beastmen, they would be killed in a flash. That is my fault. I let out a sigh. I had hoped that I would soon reach the Shangri-La somewhere and live happily ever after, forgetting about those idiots in the kingdom. Human, you are granted special permission to pass through. As long as you do not antagonize us, we will not touch you. You may go wherever you wish. The tiger girl, temporary, looked unhappy, but she didn't outwardly argue. Probably because the bear man was in a better position. Myrrel walks toward the ravine with her back to me. A war is about to start. That may be true. The people of the kingdom might do it. I don't know anything about this world, and I don't care much about it. Whether it's about defeating the Demon King or saving the world, I don't care. I'll just run away to a quiet place and live my life the way I want to. But I'm not so much of a coward that I'm going to stand back and let the first girl I ever met fight for her life. Maybe. Wait, Myrrel, you owe me. I won't let you do anything you don't want to until you pay it back. The beastman roared in anger, but I didn't care. I looked at Myrrel, who had a resentful expression on her face and smiled. But well, you and I have a short relationship. I can wait to collect until we destroy the kingdom's army, okay? I was connected to Earth's black market from another world with the skill market. Chapter 17 to 18. Supported by Patreon. Enjoy. Chapter 17. A piece of paradise. For some reason, I succeeded in getting them to accept me willy-nilly. I was accepted with a suspension of judgment for the time being and drove the microbus towards the canyon. It was about 1.5 miles to the canyon entrance. If I wanted to go to the top of the canyon, it would be several kilometers. I didn't want to walk that far, and I didn't think it would be a good idea to drive ourselves, so I asked the Beastmen warriors to ride with us. At first, they were wary and scared. But after Myrrel explained that it was like a carriage only without horses, as if they understood, they seemed to understand why and suddenly became quiet. So, what are you talking about when you say I owe you? In the front row seat next to the driver's seat, there was Myrrel. Although she is still pouting, it looks like she is trying to hide the fact that her mouth looks like it wants to smile broadly. I don't know what's in the woman's heart. Oh, I'm sorry. It was just a random thought. I didn't think anything of it. Huh? Don't be so angry. At that time, I thought I had no choice but to do that in order not to be separated from Myrrel. I didn't care what it took as long as I could be with you. I see. That's good. I thought you were talking about the gun that you gave me. Is that so? Well, whatever. She seemed to be in a better mood all of a sudden. Of course you're going to get the balls, aren't you? Oh, yes. Wait here. I'll negotiate with him when we get to the hideout. Negotiate? Isn't that supposed to be magic? It may be magic to get it out, but I have to buy it. That guy is quite a tricky merchant. I thought it was some kind of extreme magic, but it's a lot more mysterious than that. Yes, I think so too. After about 1 kilometer, The car was brought to a halt. As the beastman gets off and calls out, elves with longbows come out from behind the sparse bushes. They were well camouflaged, with branches and grasses stuck into their grass-colored overcoats that looked like mesh hoods, so it was probably hard to tell them apart even if they were right in front of us. When they were motionless, there was some introduction and discussion about Myrrell and me, and after a bit of this and that, the frustrated Myrrell was about to leave the microbus, and we were grudgingly accepted. I wonder if we'll have to do the same thing at their headquarters. The elves didn't seem to be interested in anything new, and when we got on the microbus, they didn't even look around, just sat on the seats with a sullen look on their faces. They are all incredibly beautiful, both men and women, but I think it would be a shame if they looked like that. Once we entered the canyon, we drove almost 200 meters on a narrow road about 10 meters wide. The road was half buried by a huge fallen rock, at least 5 meters in diameter. They won't attack us from above, will they? Don't worry. We've already told them we're on it. I don't know when I made the communication, but after hearing the Tiger Girl's words, I decided to concentrate on driving. The car was just barely wide enough to pass through a few times, and I felt uneasy as the body of the car rattled and creaked on the rough road, but as we passed through the ravine, I saw a cliff with a drop-off on the left and a gentle slope on the right that led up the ravine in a large arc back to the south. The slope was not too steep, and the road was wide and flat, so it was not impossible to drive there. After a few minutes of driving, we reached a plateau with a great view. The sun was about to rise, and in the twilight, the ruins of a city surrounded by crumbling walls appeared before us. Welcome to Kasemayan. This is the subhuman paradise. Is what's left of that dream. Chapter 18, The Trembling Hero. There's no going back, and there is no stopping the war. Hail to the hero. Glory to the kingdom. As I stood on the terrace of the castle alongside the king and queen, looking down at the countless excited and enthusiastic soldiers of the kingdom army, I tried my best to push down the fear that was rising in me. They're calling it subjugation of the fortress where the subhuman rebels are hiding, but as far as I can tell, this is war. The number of people, the equipment, and the goals. It started with a harassing siege and burning and ended with a one-sided slaughter. A statement of intent that those who turn against the humans will not be tolerated. Thoroughly crush them, and remove their will to rebel. The person standing at the forefront of this will surely be me, the subhuman. Beastman, elf, dwarf, birdman, or half-fishman is said to be a pest that disturbs the order and peace of human society. The reason why the nobles of the kingdom use subhumans as slaves is to educate them about the difference between the positions of humans and subhumans, and it is their duty as nobles to stand above others and maintain and manage society. Do they think I'm stupid enough to take such nonsense seriously? This is bullshit. My bad feeling has been lingering. The third prince, who went on a reconnaissance mission to the rebel hideout about a day's ride north from the kingdom, has lost contact, and no one has returned, including the cavalrymen and the mages who accompanied him. The scouts from the National Army who went to check on them have not returned either. To be honest, it wasn't a feeling anymore. I'm certain of what has happened, and I'm anticipating what will happen. I've heard the guards I've been training with talking about the mysterious massacre in the royal capital. They were whispering to each other at a distance so that I, a hero, couldn't hear them, but I, with my abnormally enhanced physical abilities, could hear them all. They said, a corpse with a small hole. It resembled an arrow wound, but the hole was so severe it looked like it had been chewed through. It was the same as what I had seen, which was probably a bullet wound. 12 in the royal castle, 1 in the noble quarter of the royal capital, and then 1 dwarf disappeared around the time of the massacre. She was a young genius engineer who designed and manufactured a mechanical bow that was tens of times more powerful than the existing longbows and was named the Holy King's Bow or something like that. The timing was just too perfect. It was almost the same time that the man disappeared, leaving behind a large number of dead bodies. How could it be unrelated? The king, queen, and princess all decided to cover up the situation. There was also the fact that a useless person was mixed in with the hero summoning, that the court's chief mage and 5 of the most elite members of the royal guard were killed, and that the crown and tiara, the kingdom's treasures, were stolen. My advice was ignored. I asked for vigilance against the man but was only met with a laugh. How could I possibly be afraid with an invincible hero summoned by the most powerful country in the world at my side? I'm not kidding. Although I was given an unfamiliar sword and strange powers, I had not yet fully grasped the identity and limitations of my new self. More importantly, that man is a mass of uncertainty. That man, a slender, shabby, middle-aged man who is at least a head taller than me. A creepy old man wearing a flimsy, crumpled, cheap, shiny suit with a perpetual faint smile on his face. His eyes are still burned into my mind, and I can't get rid of them. The strange calmness, almost resignation, and the cold gaze that seemed to despise everything in the world. His body and tone of voice showed impatience, anger, and fear, but his eyes were the only thing that kept me awake. I'm used to seeing the eyes of someone who has lost their temper. In martial arts, some people simulate madness. Most of them are small fry. Adrenaline is fast-acting, but it doesn't last. All you have to do is keep your distance with a jab or a front kick and play with the footwork, and they will quickly run out of stamina. After that, it's easy to cook them. The problem is the guy with the set A's. It doesn't matter how big or small the body is. If you have the same skill and experience, the heavier weight class is naturally more troublesome, but strangely enough, or maybe it's just a matter of necessity to make up for weaknesses, the lesser the size, the more outstanding the skill and insight. In other words, there are some little guys who are extremely strong, though they are rare. At the time, I was confused. But I wasn't going to let my guard down. I was foolish enough to think that I could just punch him and be done with it. I couldn't finish him off, and he escaped, struck back, and almost killed me. If it hadn't been for the magic barrier that the mage quickly put up, I might have actually been killed. In fact, the mage who protected me died. The 5 knights in my immediate guard were also killed in a flash. That man had no hesitation in firing the bullet. Now, Hero Dono, this way. The king calls out to me with a big smile on his face. I was used as a decoration, a palanquin, for carrying out the subjugation campaign with great fanfare. The wild cheers became a mass of sound pressure and rushed to me. Oh, Hero-sama, Hero-sama. Our victory is now assured. It's ridiculous, I think to myself. I was called a hero, but I'm actually a coward. Tomonrai, who was called the sage, is an idiot who can't even do arithmetic. Muki, who is revered as a saint, is a bitch who opens her legs to anyone. Well, I guess she is a saint in a way. In order to return to our original world, we have to obey the king's orders. The people in the castle, from the king on top to the paper soldiers on the bottom, are shitty people who change their attitude depending on whether they're nobles or commoners. But who else can we rely on? Muki is being fawned over as the princess of the knights, and she's so excited. I guess that's true. They are all handsome, noblemen, all have money and good family background. Tomonrai and I were accompanied by several maidservants or underlings wherever we went. They wore black maids' uniforms or something like that, but to be honest, it didn't excite me too much because, in the real world, they are naturally plain and practical work clothes. Although we did it, they didn't make any sound and didn't respond much. They seemed to be secretly looking for me the whole time we were having sex, which was very depressing. I mean, first of all, it was creepy. I immediately understood the role of those women. They were there to watch, guard, and act as a safety valve in case of an emergency. The king and the kingdom will put us on the front lines, at the very tip of the whole army, to clear the path. They say that with the strongest armor and protective gear, a magic barrier, and the skills of a hero, a group of subhumans is nothing more than a wooden figurine that you can slay. But I don't think it will end that easily. I guess one of the women's roles is to kill me if we lose and end up running away or rebelling. If the need arose, they would sacrifice their own lives. Behind the soldiers who were looking at us, a holy king's bow was being carried on a cart. I heard that it was a mechanical bow, like a giant bowgun, and that it had enough destructive power to break through the castle walls. I don't know if it's true or not. I'm not interested. In fact, if you were to attack the subhuman rebels, there probably wouldn't be any castle gates to smash through. I'm sure it's just a decoration, just like me, just to make a splash. Nonsense. I don't care what the kingdom wants or what the king thinks. I'm going to do whatever I have to do. Do what I need to do. Yes, I'm going to kill that man. I was connected to Earth's black market from another world with the skill market. Chapter 19 to 20. Here's the chapter. Enjoy. Chapter 19. The one who escaped. As I parked the microbus in front of the city gate, about 10 people appeared to greet us from within the city walls. They were carrying a variety of weapons in their hands, but none of them looked very strong. Perhaps the beastmen and elves we carried are the most elite force currently available. Or maybe, the reason why they are in the Revolutionary Army or the Liberation Army is because of the unavoidable circumstances, and the beastmen and the others' main occupation is probably as farmers or hunters. What is this? Is that a carriage? I don't see any horses. The thing on the front is a bear face, right? I've seen bears in the dark forest. Bears aren't that cute, are they? After a few moments of waiting, the gates opened, and we were welcomed in. The children sat in the back seat and did not get off, so we entered the city in the microbus. Oh, this is that, isn't it? It's like in the Gauntlet movie, the one where the bus gets shot from both sides by the cops and becomes a beehive. So far, the only thing that stings is the gazes. There were 40 to 50 people living in Kasemayan, at least the ones that caught my eye. There were few women and children. I wonder if they couldn't escape or if they were somewhere safe. They were also talking about how they were devoting people to patrolling and monitoring the area, so I estimated that there were around 100 people in total. I stopped the car in the front yard of the church-like building, where it was wider, and told the kids to get out of the car so I could store the car. They complain, but I ignore them. This is not your toy or your secret base. I wanted to ride it more. Can't you just leave it like this? Meryl, you too? It's fine to leave it there, but since it's directly connected without an engine key, there's a chance that it might start running while someone else is playing with it. To prevent accidents, I'd better store it away. It's insane to let a human into the city. Who knows what he'll do? I'm not asking you to trust him. Just stay out of harm's way. How do I know he won't hurt us? In the vestibule, the bear man who had come with us in the microbus explained the situation to the people who had gathered. From the way he looked back at me from time to time and shook his head with some difficulty, it seemed that there was a lot of opposition to my acceptance, aside from Meryl. During the discussion, I was met with looks of caution, anger, contempt, and even some murderous intent as I stood at a distance. If the situation was a war against humans, well, that's what would have happened. Thank goodness they're not all against me and want me gone immediately, but there's room for discussion. Meryl is standing in front of me, trying to take care of all the bad intentions. I'm grateful for that, but I'm sorry if it has caused the beastmen, elves, and dwarves to distrust her as well. Meryl, don't worry about me. You should join the conversation over there. I refuse. But you know, when I say no, then no. As far as I could tell from their words, they must have survived to this point after years of hardship. I understand their deep-seated distrust of humans. I understand that they are wary, but I can't stand it when they look down on Yoshua like that. This Nojalali is really a good girl. But there's something that's bothering me. From what I've heard, people seem to think that Meryl is being used as my slave. I guess they misunderstood me because of what I said when I tried to force Meryl to stay with me. In other words, well, it's my fault. Wait, how could you misunderstand me? I'm not Yoshua's slave, and he doesn't have any slaves in the first place. How can you be so sure? If you have any facts to prove it, please tell us. You can't prove anything, can you? I'm not sure if it's only inflammatory words, tit or tat, or something like a kid's quarrel, but the small man who seems to be a dwarf gives Meryl a piercing look. I don't know what kind of imagination led him to make that face, but I didn't do anything to deserve it. Oh, well, I'll tell you what. First of all, I don't have any money. It was Meryl who looked most dismayed by my words, which I thought I had managed to help out. What is it? I'm a man who doesn't choose the means to achieve his goals despite my appearance, you know. I don't have any gold or silver coins, or even copper coins, to buy a slave. Even if I were to force myself to capture one, I'd probably have less strength than that kid. Helma, right? I'm no better than her. Of course, I'm also slower than a beastman. I started to feel a bit nervous. The beastman, in particular, took a bite out of my explanation, probably in a different direction than I intended. Hey, you're kidding, right? Aside from his legs, his strength is. I mean, yeah, he may be right. No, really. If I pushed him, he would have been blown up and not be able to move. That's right. That was unexpected, but it worked pretty well. Hearing Helma's overly honest words, the subhumans, the beastmen and others changed their attitudes. Their hostility and malice disappeared, and they looked at me as if they were looking at something pitiful. Oh no, I think I'm going to cry. The elf man looked at me, tilting his head. There was a light tickling sensation all over his body as if he was appraising me. His magic power is also average. It may be high for a human, but it's poor for a mage. I was so disappointed that I fell to my knees. I knew it somehow. But I'm really that bad, huh? But, you know. He took off the slave's collar, with magic. What? Can you take off a slave's collar? I couldn't get it off no matter what I tried. Yeah, here. I took the slave's collar out of storage and threw it out nearby. If anyone is having trouble getting it off, bring them to me later. Oh, this is. You didn't cut it off, huh? You really did remove it by magic? Yes, you did. He also told me that he killed the kingdom's mages and cavalry and that he brought the adults who died trying to protect us here. And he also gave us food and blankets. The beastman children who I had brought here tried to convince the adults to help me. It was too late to follow up, and I didn't mean to give them the blanket, but it seemed to soften their attitude a little. Hey, you! Is it true that you carried the body? Oh yeah, I forgot. I asked them to spread a blanket on the ground, and I took the 3 bodies of the Kasemayan Liberation Army out of my storage and handed them over. The recipients were 4 elderly men and women and a young woman who looked like they were family members of the deceased. They all looked like they were about to cry, but they nodded and stroked the bodies lovingly. They seemed to have fought bravely to protect the children. By the time we got there, they were already dead. I'm sorry we couldn't help them. It's okay. My brothers always said that. They always said it was their duty to protect and reclaim those who were captured. If we had not sensed the danger with the magical light they were using to fight, we would have approached them unprotected and would have been killed as well. In that sense, they are a lifesaver not only for the children but for the 2 of us as well. I'm glad you said that, and my brother, too. The rest is inexpressible. The beastman's girl broke down in tears, and the bereaved family members around her were gently comforting her. Well, okay. We'll allow you to stay. Helmer and the others should keep an eye on him to make sure he doesn't do anything strange. The residents, who had been blaming me and the others with venomous faces, broke up and went back to their homes and jobs. The remaining beastman children looked at each other, their tails hanging down in unison. That's troublesome. But I don't hate this guy because he has good food. Well, if he gives it to me again, I can keep watch. Hey, wait. Does the person being watched have to pay for the cost of the watcher? I mean, maybe I should teach these little beastmen boys and girls that being overly honest is not a virtue. Yeah. I turned around to see if I could organize my things in storage for now, and the warm-eyed Meryl confronted me. Joshua, I think you should choose your words a little better. Oh, yes. Well, I'm glad it worked out in the end. She shook her head at my unintentional response. No, I can't react when you look at me like a mother looking at a stupid child like that, especially for a little girl who's only half my age. The way I see it, you have a habit of underestimating your own value. I don't know what made you do it, so this is my selfishness. The serious-looking Meryl looked at me straight in the face. Remember that. I will not allow anyone who is important to me to be neglected. Chapter 20, The Sound of Military Boots. The kingdom's army has begun to move. The elves of the Kasemayan Liberation Army brought the information to Meryl and me. As expected, we were not invited to the War Council, but they seem to be concerned about us. Maybe they're expecting us to be a force to be reckoned with. So the war is starting, after all. Whether it can be called a war depends on the strength of the kingdom's army. Looking at the number of people on this side, it is likely that it will end up being a local conflict at best or even a simple massacre at worst. Of course, I'm not going to talk about it. Instead, I ask as calmly as I can. How many soldiers are there? According to the scouts who have infiltrated the capital, the total number of troops is less than 30,000. Infantry 22,000, cavalry 3,000, archers 1,000, mages 200, transportation 2,000, carriages 800. That's a lot. Not just a lot, but 30,000 against 100 barbarians. That's insane. What are they thinking? The transportation corps alone could kill us all. Meryl and I were going to rent a house in the abandoned part of Kasemayan to discuss our future, but there was no need for that for the time being. There may be no future, or, rather, the future that I had just pictured for myself was definitely not there. A gloomy feeling spreads in my chest. From the perspective of the kingdom's army, this is just a subjugation. This is just a clean-up battle to nip a rebellion in the bud. It was clear what the excessive mobilization of troops indicated. Just like the other territories they had annexed and absorbed, they were making an example of those who had rebellious intentions. Even if they surrendered, They were not allowed to surrender. Women and children would be slaughtered at will, without regard to their status. Oh, and by the way, there is a rumor that concerns me. It is said that the hero who is summoned from the other world and his companions will take the lead of the whole army to defeat the abomination that overflowed from the demon forest. Oh, man, seriously? I tried to keep my face calm so that it wouldn't tense up. I could see that Miral's gaze was directed at me, but I avoided eye contact and tilted my head questioningly. Could it be that my presence has brought in too much force? Oh, a hero, huh? Another high-profile guy comes out of the woodwork. So, what's this side's strength? There are about 100 that can fight. I'd estimate that only about half of those can be put on a line as a frontline force, right? I knew that. They call themselves the Liberation Army of a subhuman country, but in reality, they are just like a bunch of bandits. They can't even compete with the regular army. The subhuman troops with leather armor are powerless against regular soldiers wearing armor and carrying swords and possibly shields. No matter how powerful the elves' longbows are, they are not enough to penetrate the shields. Even if they had that much power, there were only 20 elven archers at most. They would not be able to stand up to 10,000 enemies. It's not just a matter of numbers anymore. The numbers alone are more than enough to be a big problem, though. So, in terms of frontline strength alone, it's 50 against 25,000 or more. Wahahahaha. It's almost funny how far this has come, isn't it? I know, but Miral-san, please read the atmosphere. The elf-san's face is dumbfounded, his blood is drained, and he looks like a haniwa, a clay figurine. Hey, don't look so irritated. Aside from myself, who do you think this guy is? Wait. The name of this man is Teku Yoshua, a fantastic and outrageous mage. Just like the hero, he is a monster from another world. He has already declared war on the foolish king of Salient face to face. I have already assumed that he will challenge the kingdom before long. Miral, that's too much. There are some things that I feel I've told her and some things that I haven't before I came here, but even before that, the image of me is 100% fictional, far removed from reality. Moreover, she kept her position as if she had nothing to do with it. That's reassuring. I don't know if it's a fake smile or an affectionate smile, but the elf's lips curved slightly. In fact, if there's anything they can cling to, they'll cling to it, even if it's an illusion. Otherwise, their feelings will be crushed before the war begins. To the north is a dense forest where magical beasts roam. It's impossible to escape to another country again after having escaped. Subhumans have always been oppressed in every country. What kind of country would want to protect them by turning the most powerful country against them? There is nowhere to run. If they are defeated, they will die here, and of course, that means us too. By the way, has that scout seen a strange big bow on a cart? The elf's eyes narrowed at Miral's casual words. Why, have you seen it? You saw it, didn't you? How many? 4. And about 10 smaller ones that the soldiers carry. Miral looked at me with a desperate expression for a moment. If the mechanical bows kill the people here, and they certainly will be if they are shot with them, her eyes are telling me that it is her fault. I smiled and shook my head. That's not going to happen. I would never allow the technology that Miral have created to be used as a tool to kill her comrades. I slapped the little dwarf girl on the back with my hand. There was a resounding thud, and she let out a girlish scream and recoiled. I scratched the head of the teary-eyed dwarf girl and smirked at her. Hey, don't give me that sour look, Miral-chan. Cha-chan, you said it yourself. Who do you think I am? A fantastic, outrageous, monster mage, right? If you're going to make a mess of it, you'll have to ride it to the end with your eyes. It may sound like I'm holding a root, but you're right. I'm a small person. Anyway, who is Teku Yoshua? That's right. You can defeat a hero who also came from the other world, right? He's just an idiot, isn't he? I could beat him with one punch. Oh no. I've covered this girl's crazy story even more. Stop it already. If I raise the bar any higher, I won't be able to pick up that act. The dwarf girl and I look at each other with a wicked smile. Our hearts are in each other's hands, for better or worse. The elf also doesn't understand the meaning of one punch, but he seems to have picked up the meaning of easy win. Is it okay to trust it? Of course you can. Right, Mia? Yeah, Of course, cheerfulness is part of strength, and bluffing is part of the skill. That's what the Japanese salaryman is. Just look at the life of company employee who has survived by crawling from the bottom to the top. So, I have a suggestion, or rather a favor. The elf stiffens a little at my words. There is no distrust in his eyes. I'm sure he's still in the mindset that anything can do if he can rely on it. He nodded and urged me to go on. I'll kill 10,000 of those 30,000. I will also prepare the means to kill the remaining 20,000. In return, I want you to lend a hand. Promise me that you will fight with me until the end? The elf's face contorts into a grimace for a moment. And then, finally, a real, not fake, smile appeared on his face. This is the first time I've seen an elf smile like that, and it was surprisingly childlike and innocent. Of course, even at the cost of my life. I was connected to Earth's black market from another world with the skill market. Chapter 21. Supported by Patreon. Enjoy. Chapter 21. Behind the market. What are you thinking, Joshua? That you can kill all the enemies? If you ask me, yes, I can. Wait a minute. I looked at my status, which I had forgotten to check for a long time, and saw that my rank had risen by 1 level, and each parameter had increased significantly. Yeah, I'm finally starting to get over 100. Name, Yoshiaki Takefu. Occupation, Merchant of Death, Terrorist, Guardian of the Subhuman, Observer of Malice. Rank, O2. Physical Strength, 45. Magic, 128 Attack, 72 Resistance, 56 Defense, 87 Agility, 61 Intelligence, 73 Cordage, 04 Skills, Appraisal, 84 Teleportation, 32 Storage, 136 Market, 51. My stats are looking pretty good, especially my magic. That's right. Joshua was a mage in the first place, right? It's the result of defeating a high-ranking mage as well. No, I'm a merchant, after all. But then again, do you need to kill a mage to increase your magic power? You can also increase it by killing monsters. It seems that it is proportional to the amount of magic power of the person who killed it, so killing monsters is more efficient. If you try your hand at dangerous opponents, you will easily die. I didn't go through the new job title, or rather, I don't think terrorists and guardians are job titles. The low level of cordage, which probably means emotional ties, that doesn't extend at all, indicates a lack of popularity. Basically, the number of skills seems to increase with the number of uses, not with the rank. It was then that I realized I hadn't properly tested the appraisal among the skills I had. Oh, yes, Miral, can I appraise you for a moment? No, of course not. Eh? She shook her head and was taken aback. Her face was a little red. I know you lack common sense and have no ill intentions, but it's very rude, you know. Especially for a man of your age to appraise a young girl is such a shameful act that the guards should be called immediately. Is there a policeman here? If applied to someone else, a sensitive person will be able to detect it, especially a person with magical powers. It's best not to do this, as it will usually result in anger or more than just anger. I'm glad I didn't do it against the elves. Oh, but that elf from before had used it on me. It may have been not very pleasant, but it was meant to be used to check on people and things whose identity you don't know. That time, well, I guess it couldn't be helped. Basically, it's for use against objects. Maybe there's a use for it as a merchant. Now, it's time for me to start my work as a merchant. Market. A white light blocked my vision, and the world stopped moving. Simon appeared, still propping his elbows on the counter table and looking at me with a smirk on his face. His eyes turned to Miral, who has stopped moving beside me. Hey, brother, is that little girl your girlfriend? No, she's my guardian. In this world, I'm just a kid, after all. I don't understand Japanese taste. So, correction and addition to the previous order. I need as much barbed wire as you can get your hands on. Heavy machine guns, light machine guns, mines and grenades, napalm, and flamethrowers if available. I see. So the battlefield has finally been decided. In a flat area with a good view, there will be a lot of infantry. Oh, and if the cultural level there hasn't changed from what my dad told me, there will be cavalry, right? If you're looking for equipment for a blocking line, firearms for long-range shooting, and weapons for surface suppression, you know what I'm thinking. Do you think you can manage that? I'm sorry, but I couldn't get the M2. Heavy machine guns don't come around that often. But I can get you a light machine gun. Right now, I have one M60 and one MG3 in stock, though they are a bit pricey. However, I have 3 spare barrels for the M60, but only one for the MG3. A light machine gun is a gun that can fire a series of 7.62 by 63 mm or a shortened version of 7.62 by 51 mm military ammunition, similar to a hunting rifle. Because of its heavy weight and the possibility of belt-feeding ammunition jamming, it is basically operated by 2 people, one of whom is a loader. I'd like to have more than one, preferably of the same model. Is there anything else? Yes. 6 bars, though the barrels are a bit worn out. I'm at a loss for a reaction. The Browning automatic rifle was used by the US military in WW2. It was sturdy, reliable, relatively light for a light machine gun, though it weighed 10 kilograms with ammunition, and could be operated by one person, but the 20-round box magazine had to be changed frequently. In addition, the barrel cannot be replaced. There are conflicting advantages and disadvantages. Oh yeah. I have 2 M1919s. Both of them have been equipped with tripods and have nearly 3,000 rounds of ammunition with belts. The belts are new, of course. Even though the belts are new, the guns themselves are also WW2-era heavy machine guns for position and vehicle use. The ammunition for this gun is 7.62 by 63 mm rifle ammunition. It was originally a hunting bullet. I've got close to 100 M1903s. If you're going to war, why don't you buy them in bulk? You know, there are some advantages to sharing bullets, and I can get tens of thousands of 36s, 7.62 times 63 mm bullets, not just for full metal jackets, but for hunting big game as well. Pretty appealing, right? Well, yes. The M1903 is a military rifle that was formally adopted by the US military over 100 years ago, until it was replaced by the semi-automatic M1 Garland. The mainstay of the US military was the bolt-action rifle. 7.62 by 63 mm bullets are also used in the M1919 and other light machine guns. I've been wondering about this for a while. You're trying to get rid of the old stock in your store, aren't you? No, that's ridiculous. I'm trying to give you the best option for your future with the limited budget you have, brother. Half of it made sense to me. We're facing an army that's only a foot into the modern era, so it doesn't need the latest weapons. However, the enemy also seems to have a large number of troops, and if the heroes and mages appear, a one-man army will not be able to deal with them. The beastmen would need to be armed as well. Even the latest equipment is not enough, no matter how much money I have when it comes to numbers. Do you have any idea what I want? Yes. Easy to handle, easy to maintain, sturdy and trouble-free, cheap price of guns and ammunition. Right? He knows what it is. And it's pretty accurate. It's kind of annoying, but there it is. If I were to go to war with the most powerful country in the world on my own, there would be a limit to how many allies I could get. Simon knows, from what his father told him, that the other side is armed with swords and armor, so it's just a matter of how to bridge the gap in civilization and technology. Assuming I arm them for $300,000, how many men that can be armed? I'd say a maximum of 100 and a minimum of 40. The enemy is going to be over 30,000 at most. Simon burst out laughing. He seems to be enjoying himself, considering it's someone else's problem. If that's the case, barbed wire is a good idea. You set up a horse-proof fence and snipe the horses when they stop. As for the infantry, you could use the barbed wire to create a bottleneck, keep them in place, and boom. Simon smiles as he opens his upturned hand and smiles. I hope things work out that way. I'll talk to the dwarves about building obstacles and conduits. I see, a horse barrier. If the cavalry with spears rushes us in numbers, they'll be able to get past the gunfire, and we'll be finished. Do you have any mines? Oh, plenty of homemade ones. I got plenty of napalm and fragmentation grenades. That's the real deal. But I can't use a cell phone over here, you know? You can use radios for detonation, but I've got some wired ones in stock up to 500 yards. If you get a certain height, you can detonate it with an impact. That's good to know. If we can lure them into a narrow canyon, we might be able to kill them all. Simon was taking notes and pulling out this and that piece of equipment when I noticed a gun propped up on the counter. There was a long, thin rifle on the counter that made me look up from my 6'4" frame. I feel like I've seen this somewhere before. Oh, this? I prepared it in case you needed to secure a long-range suppression capability. It's a Simonov PTRS. It's what's called an anti-tank rifle. Now that tanks are hardened, they're called anti-material rifles. Oh, I remember now. It's from an old anime. A guy with a beard and a hat was firing this thing at an armored enemy that could bounce off .357 Magnum rounds. T/N. I'm sorry, I don't know what anime is this. The ammunition for this thing is special. Isn't it still available? No problem at all. 14.5 by 114 mm ammunition is still in use in anti-aircraft machine guns. Here, you only need about 200 rounds for now. What's the anti-aircraft machine gun? KPV. I've been looking for it, but it seems to be in short supply everywhere since the resistance took it by the roots in some a coup d'etat with Eastern weapons. Syria? And I'm sorry, Simon placed one of the armors I had given him on the counter. There was a long horizontal indentation in the breastplate. It seems that with my special ammunition in this armor, depending on the angle, it would be stuck and crushed. If I've put you in danger because of that, it's my fault. But, you know, full metal jackets, copper-coated warheads, can pull through even 45s. Look, there are a few round holes under the dent. Apparently, he had tested it for penetration. This one is for service. Take it. Why don't you let your girl have it? One Uzi with a shoulder strap, 3 spare mags, and 5.45 caliber rounds in a box of 50. The holster and mags for the M1911, which use the same ammunition, are quite thoughtful. All in all, it's good business. When I complimented him, Simon chuckled and silently shrugged his shoulders. I think he's thinking about me as well as his own interests and convenience. Of course, it's only when he's sure that I'm going to make a good profit that he does that. Okay, I get it. Except for Simonov. The ammunition I will procure from now on will be the 30-06. As for the guns, I want you to throw out every last one of your 100-year-old bad stocks and surface suppression weapons. Give me what you have. Yes, sir. As much as the budget allows. Don't worry about going over budget a little. The opponent is the largest and most powerful army in the world, and its main force is the nobility. The transportation unit has about 800 wagons. There's no way they don't have convertible supplies and negotiable currency. I hope so. It's give and take. I will make sure you get your money's worth for your contribution. I'm neither a soldier nor a hero, but I do not have the qualities of a merchant either. At least, I'm not adept enough to wage war with one hand and bargain with the other. Simon smiled back at my hard, desperate smile. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I was connected to Earth's black market from another world with the skill market. Chapter 22. Here's the chapter. Enjoy. Chapter 22. Armed subhumans. In the vestibule of the abandoned church building designated as the Central Operations Command Center, I pile up the crates from my storage one after another. I only roughly organize and sort them. There was no way it was all over after the handover anyway. On the contrary, there was a sense of turmoil from the very beginning. Not only the beastman, who is direct and quick to express their emotions, but also the normally expressionless elves and the stern-looking dwarves were gazing at the pile of heavy weapons and barbed wire with half dismay and half expectation. Unlike the elves, who were calm and collected for better or worse, the dwarves were stubborn engineers who were initially skeptical about guns, a weapon they had never heard of, but after one test firing with my AKM, they were converted to supporters. Surprisingly, as soon as they saw, heard, and touched it, they began to understand and come to their own conclusions about the advanced features and threats, advantages and disadvantages, problems and solutions. What the hell is this? Spear? No. Is that a gun too? This box has unfamiliar characters. No, the box itself is made of compressed composite material. Wait, Joshua, where did you get all this stuff? Oh, you'll get tired of worrying about every little thing Joshua does, you know? That's rude. Miral-chan. Yeah, that's right. Although it's also true that most of you who calmly begin the confirmation process, the barbed wire comes in rolls, and just by spreading it out and fixing it, it becomes a difficult obstacle to break through. The dwarves were the ones who immediately noticed its effectiveness, perhaps because of their race's expertise in metalworking. They were the first to notice the nasty features. This is insane. You can't get past this kind of thing with ordinary determination, and on the contrary, you'll be trapped and unable to move. Right? When they stop, that thing will reap what they sow. I was pointing at the M1919 heavy machine gun. In terms of ammunition, the M1919 heavy machine gun uses the same rifle ammunition as the light machine gun, but the installed type is generally referred to as a heavy machine gun. I want to put these two high-powered firearms on the front line and add crossfire to them. What the hell is that? It's a weapon that continuously fires hundreds of lead gravel that can kill even heavily armed infantry instantly. In a battle like this, where you are up against a large number of enemies, the key to victory or defeat is how many means of overrunning and destroying the enemy from outside their range of attack you can secure. In this regard, the long-range 30-06 is easily within the range of 200 meters or more. The dwarves were all taken aback by my words as I showed them the bullets and talked about my battle plan. I'd like to set up machine guns on the ramps leading up to the city in case of emergencies, but we don't have enough of them at the moment. Machine guns are valuable, mainly because of the cost. Instead, we have nearly 100 bolt-action M1903 rifles that use the same ammunition. All residents will be able to operate these. What's that long one over there? That's a weapon that fires the same bullets like the one before, one at a time. It has an effective range of about a quarter of a mile, so give it a try. Effective range? That's the distance you can aim and hit. If you just need to reach it, it'll fly more than half a mile. This time the elves all twitched at once. For a moment, they were in doubt. But then they were surprised. It's like being told that the longbow is useless. I'll have to follow up later. Well, if I can remember. Oh really? That's great. Well, there seems to be only one longer version. I'd like the best eye in the world to be in charge of that one. The impact when it fires is intense, so you need to have a certain amount of muscle strength and physique. In my words, one of the elves comes out. He's taller than most of the tall and slender elves. He was so muscular that you would think he was mixed with a dwarf. His face was covered with sword wounds, giving him the look of a brave warrior. Not only the elves and dwarves but even the tiger girl and bear men, who usually have the impression of arrogance, look at the elf with a frightened look. He's an elf, right? He's got pointed ears, after all. Chief of the Kasemayan Liberation Army, Kemik the elf, right? Your other name is Dragonslayer. HMPH. You want me to have one of your stupid toys? If it satisfies me, I may use it. Bang! The 14.5 by 114 mm round tested from the top of the ravine landed on the shell of an unfortunate giant tortoise that happened to be sunbathing in the middle of the plain. It turned half its body into shattered pieces of flesh. The distance was at least 500 meters. Oh, amazing. You hit it with your first shot. That's the Dragon Slayer for ya. That turtle's in pieces. The Dragon Slayer looked at me with a wry smile as he held up the anti-tank rifle and turned around to check the results with the binoculars that Simon had provided as a service. The surrounding elves, dwarves, and beastmen were also completely taken aback. What is that? Why do you look like that? Whoever made this is crazy, and probably you too. No, 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 no. You shot it with the intention of killing it, didn't you? Is it not allowed to kill it? Oh, you don't know, Joshua. That's not a turtle. That's a subspecies of dragon called a land-running dragon. They are grassland monsters with ironclad armor that can repel not only swords but also battle hammers and offensive magic. It's not a matter of okay or no, it's unkillable. Usually, though, I've killed a low-grade little dragon with inferior attack and defense capabilities, but it still took me half a day. No, I don't know. Why don't you tell me that before you shoot it? By the way, the meat tastes really good. I hear it also strengthens the body and increases magic power. It's not on the market, and even if it were, it would be too expensive for anyone ever to eat it. Wow, dragon meat. So, it's a good thing. Well, it turned out all right. Anyway, since a huge amount of guns and ammunition were provided, I had all the residents go through shooting training with the aim of becoming a national army. The first step was to learn the safety equipment and safe operation thoroughly. 1. Never put any ammunition in the chamber until just before firing. 2. Never put your finger in the trigger guard until you are ready to shoot. 3. Never point the muzzle of the gun at anyone other than the person you want to kill. This must be strictly observed. The beastman he got used to the bolt-action M1903 rifle surprisingly quickly. The weight, length, and recoil did not seem to bother these physically strong people. In addition, they have good eyesight and good intuition. On the other hand, the scopes were not well received. Compared to the naked eye, the unnatural distortion was unpleasant. I had prepared 20 scopes for them. Well, if they can see and hit, they don't have to use them. They are genuine hunters, and there is no waste or gap in their movements. They don't just stand there and shoot, they instinctively move like special forces, hiding and getting down, shooting, and then immediately moving without a sound. By providing them with bayonets, they will be able to deal with enemies who are closing the distance without difficulty. Good at getting away, even better at getting close. Honestly, I can't do it. And I don't want to. The AKM is just right for me, as it can put up a barrage even with crude aiming. The bayonets for the M1903, which had been sold at a discounted price, came in a variety of lengths and specifications. But the beastman, who had different tastes and physiques and respected individuality, was pleased. As a side note, do you know what the most popular weapon among beastmen is? Surprisingly, or perhaps not so surprisingly, it was the shovel. I distributed shovels to the beastmen for use in setting traps and building camps, and they were very popular because they were light and strong, easy to use for thrusting and cutting, could be wielded as if they were an extension of their arms and hands, and could even be used to dig a hole. Hey, Yada, are we missing anything? Right. What about a nice guy? Sorry, they're all out of stock. Yada, the tiger girl, who reluctantly gave me her name, who almost killed me when we first met, has become somewhat familiar with me. She must have recognized that I was not someone who would harm her people. It's funny how her tales are full of emotions, even when she's sulking or talking hatefully. If I point it out, she'll get angry, so I keep quiet. Miral casually leans in close to me as I look around, giving instructions, guidance, and consultation. It's not because I'm unreliable that I feel like her movements are more like a guard than a good friend. It's going well. Did you get the warheads for hunting? Oh, 500 rounds. It may seem like a lot, but as a percentage of the total ammunition, it's indeed a valuable item that I finally secured. At any rate, the 3006 ammunition supplied by Simon this time was about 70,000 rounds, not including those that were belt-linked for heavy machine guns. The cost of the ammunition was higher than expected, and with the addition of this and that equipment, the budget of $300,000 had been exceeded. Simon told me that I owed him for the money, and he hoped that I would pay him back after the war. Yes, the hunting warhead was so powerful that it was designed for large game. The amount of ammunition is higher than that of a normal bullet, and the firing energy is higher. In addition, the lead in the core of the bullet is half exposed, so it deforms greatly when it hits the target, spraying all of its kinetic energy into the target's body. Although the M1903 is effective even when wearing armor, I want to maximize its effectiveness. I'll give the M1903S to about 5 people with good marksmanship and have them target mainly the horses of the cavalry. I see, you want to take out the enemy's legs first. That's also the idea. If they have no means of transportation, they can't attack, and they can't escape. Heavy cavalry without horses on a wide plain with a good view is just a target without any protection or bows. It's not just a matter of slowing down. It's a matter of losing their advantage. I'm not sure why you're saying also other than to take away their legs. When Meryl tilted her head, I explained simply, The priority is to take away the legs. First, the commander's horse. Next, the first horse that comes charging in. Cavalry takes a ridiculous amount of money and time to raise and maintain. Only nobles with wealth and position can practically do it. When they are in danger, the commoner infantrymen are ordered to rescue them or support their retreat. This would reduce the enemy's effort and strength many times more than a simple kill. If the front of the charging cavalry falls, collateral damage will occur, and if a large and conspicuous force is destroyed spectacularly, the following forces will see how they died, and fear will spread. When I turned around with a smug look on my face and said, "Killing 2 birds with 1 stone," I was greeted with a wry smile from Miral. I don't know if the idiom is getting through, but it seems to be getting the point across. You're still the same, reasonable and concise. It may be effective, but it's refreshingly outrageous. It can't be helped. It's war, after all. I tried to say it in the Mitsuo style, but she would not understand, and Miral only responded with a smile. T/N, I'm not really sure, but probably Mitsuo Aida. I'm not accusing you of anything. I'm impressed. The idea of making the enemy suffer rather than killing them is something we would never have thought of. And I am grateful. I'm really glad you're here. Throughout the conversation, Miral looked pleased with the situation. It's probably not because she's with me. It was because she had an M1911 copy pistol in a holster on her left shoulder and Uzi, a tough Israeli short machine gun she called Yuja, hanging on her right shoulder. Both of them are fully loaded with .45 caliber bullets. After just one shooting experience, it seems that Miral has become a true believer in the .45, just like the Americans. Miral, don't you ever practice with your rifle? I don't need to aim and shoot. If I don't have enough range, I can get closer to the enemy. Just get as close as you can see them, she answered with a big smile on her face. The Uzi is normally chambered for 9mm per ABM ammunition, but the one Simon had procured was a special order from some other country and had been converted to .45 caliber. I heard that the weight of the gun was not bothering her at all. Rather, she carries it around with her at all times as a sign of her immense trust. That's scary. Hey, Joshua, can you please let the dwarves be the shooters, machine gunners, and assistants, ammunition handlers, of this M1919? I was stopped by a group of small, bearded old men, who appealed to me with serious eyes. It seemed that these skilled workers were fascinated by the big machine gun on a tripod. They were fascinated by the elaborate mechanism, but after seeing the power of the gun, they would not let go of it even for a moment. As they fought over it, they maintained and polished it, making it shine so brightly that it was hard to believe it was 100 years old. What was even more unexpected was the dwarf's cheat ability to control the overheating of the barrel. I heard that their innate magic of fire magic, or heat control, can not only give heat to metal but also take it away. It's easy, for the dwarves, to adjust the pace of the gun, if not the need to change the barrel. Oh, the fantasy. It's also very simple. Yeah, sure. But it's a dangerous role, you know? You'll be on the front lines, facing tens of thousands of enemies. That's no problem at all. All four of us are old men on the verge of death. The younger ones will be in the rear guard. Well, I guess we'll see. Before that, I'm going to make sure we have a good gun emplacement. It should be sturdy enough to withstand a rain of arrows. Simon gave me 5,000 extra rounds of cloth-belted bullets and some bulletproof plates as a service. He said they were additional armor plates for lightly armored vehicles, but they came with a guarantee that even Miral's mechanical bow would not be able to penetrate them. Miral, who was supposed to have designed the latest and greatest annihilation weapon, was somewhat shocked, though. We combined them to make a simple camp. The entrance to the ravine, which had originally been the main obstacle, was closed off with logs, trenches, and barbed wire, and the gun emplacements were placed so that the firing lines crossed from both sides. In other words, a space for annihilation was created. In addition, even if they were to force their way through, we had created a blocking line at the far end of the ravine. We can't see them until they are right in front of us, but they are almost impossible to cross by riding. When a certain number of enemies enter the canyon, a death present will rain down from above. Hey Miral, do you know what kind of attack was subjected to the last time this place fell? I heard that they were overcome by the violence of numbers, tens or hundreds of times. That and their winged dragon. I knew it. There was air support. So it will be the same this time. We're going to need to be on anti-aircraft alert. Against a wyvern flying at high speed, a single shot Simonoff might be difficult. A long-range, high firepower barrage. That's where that thing comes in. I went back to the front of the church and opened a crate I had kept in the corner. I've heard that even when this gun was in service, it was only given to those with good physique and good judgment. Being a gunner was an honorary position, but also a dangerous one, as it made you an easy target. What, is it a relative of the Simonov? More of a relative of the M1919 machine gun than the Simonov. It can shoot down a dragon. The elves will take care of that. I turned around and saw 6 elves standing there. Their eyes were fixed on me with determination. They understood that they could no longer win this war with longbows alone. That is why they have no hesitation in abandoning their meaningless pride. No, please let us do our part. We also consider ourselves to be top-notch archers, even with the M1903 rifle. We are no match for the rest of our comrades. It is the pride of the elves to be in the most dangerous places against the most dangerous enemies. We cannot leave that burden to Kemik alone. The eyes of the elves were serious as they spoke. On the battlefield, where the longbow has become useless, they were thinking in their own way, searching for what they could do. I see. Then, please. I handed them 6 guns, each with 320-round mags in a box, each of them carrying a bar. They were amazed at the length and weight of their new partner and smiled coolly as they realized the dependability of the strong steel. Report: large-scale mobilization of troops in the royal capital confirmed. Report: increased influx of what appears to be military supplies. Report: a small detachment of light cavalry that looks like an advance party has set out in several waves. When we received a series of urgent reports from the winged tribesmen, bird beastmen, who had been keeping a watchful eye on the skies above, we prepared ourselves for what was to come. There was no one to be afraid of. There was nowhere to run. Either we would win and survive and protect the homeland, or we would die and lose everything. Strangely enough, my mind was quiet. I felt attached to the people of Kasemayan, who were fighting with me. I was connected to Earth's black market from another world with the skill market. Chapter 23. Supported by Patreon. Enjoy. Chapter 23. Lost health. Joshua, this is delicious, you know. Oh, that's good. You should eat a lot, and if it's not enough, I'll bring more. Thank you. The Beastman children were eating canned stew and thin pancakes. I had gotten the flour from Simon, a large white bag of UN aid supplies that seemed to have been diverted. The food is piled up in the church to protect it from rain and wild animals. There are also rice and corn flour in paper bags, which also aid supplies. I have no idea how to use the corn flour. Well, the women seem to be working hard, so I'll leave it to them. In addition to the food I had procured, there was also meat from birds and beasts that had probably been hunted nearby and smoked over the furnace. It looks like the food will last for a while. Not only food but also pre-cooked food, canned food, cookies, packs of mineral water of various sizes, grouped in 12 or 24 bottles. There are also group rations, which are large group versions of military rations. The food was served in aluminum trays the size of the delicatessen at a hotel buffet and was supposed to be heated up and served in small units. If you buy them in Japan, they are expensive, and sometimes they are labeled as collectible to evade food sanitation laws. This is the first time I've seen it in person. Since they are supplied by the black market, they are not only from one country but from all over the world. Most of the packages are in military colors, so I assume they are rations, but some are flat, some are round, and some look like they are simply enlarged commercial cans. What are these letters? I can't read it at all. Sorry, I can't read them either. The square one that looks like Russian, and the one over there has an accent point, so it could be German or French. This one has an upside-down question mark, so it could be the Spanish language. Yeah, I don't know. You'll have to open it to find out. Whatever it is, they're all food. Maybe. One of the kids who had been rummaging through the pile of supplies cheered when he spotted a bag full of sugar-coated chocolate. Is that Simon's service, too? Yes, that's very thoughtful. But I won't go easy on the price. Joshua, that water is sweet and delicious, but this water is sour. Sour? I took some and tried to drink it, but it didn't seem to be any worse. Perhaps he was referring to the difference between soft water and hard water. Could it be that the cat-eared boy shouldn't be drinking hard water? The sweet one is spring water, and the sour one is water from a high rocky mountain. The mineral is supposed to make the body stronger. But if it bothers you, drink other water, and everyone should too. Yes. Hey, Miral, this place is so high up. How do you get water? You see those trees in the city? I looked in the direction she pointed, and sure enough, I saw some huge overgrown trees. Even though it was in ruins, it seemed a little unnatural in the midst of a reasonably well-maintained cityscape. It's a sacred tree. Ah. Some kind of tree in the village of the elves, that cools water. Cool? Not sucking up? No matter how big the tree is. The underground water vein is not within reach of its roots. Instead, it must gather water from somewhere. I've heard that it converts the ever-present magic called mana into the water. But I'm a dwarf, and I don't know anything about that. As I got a little closer, I could see that a small water hole had been built around the base of the tree. The water seeping out of the tree was caught and stored, making it look like a drinking fountain, a water fountain, or a simple water supply. Oh, fantasy. It's also very simple. What are you staring at? Is there something on my head? No, I just thought I saw a green bar. Bar? No, I don't think so. It's not like the HP bar in a JRPG. It only lasted for a second, and then it wavered and disappeared. It's just my imagination. That's what I decided to think. Maybe it's an escape from reality. But there's no reality to escape from in another world. Damn it. Joshua, do you have a minute? One of the elves approached me. I've seen this guy before. I think his name is... Yeah, I forgot. I don't know if I've ever heard it before. Elves are good-looking people, but that's why they're so hard to tell apart. They should have ribbons in their bangs or something, like the twins' identification signs. Any trouble? No, I don't know yet. But one of our scouts hasn't come back. A scout? An elf? I think everyone's here. By the looks of it, the beastmen who had been issued guns were all in the middle of maintenance with their cleaning kits. In the meantime, the elves and I are on watch and patrol to make sure that no one is unarmed. The dwarves are working on machine guns and IEDs, homemade bombs, in case you were wondering. The children are sleeping in a group with full stomachs, and I don't know who the absent ones are. It's Milka, blonde hair, blue eyes. She's half human and has a tendency to rush things. I think there was some kind of sloppy and clunky little elf with bad eyesight wandering around, but I can't remember. Is it okay to send such a girl as a scout? We did not approve it, and we never gave such an order either. She just left a note and disappeared. I understand that she wants to be recognized and to be useful, but now is not the right time. It is only a matter of time before war breaks out, and since we are in a situation where we need reconnaissance, of course, the kingdom will have sent out scouts and advanced troops as well. What's that kid's weapon? A bow. It's a short bow, but it uses poison. And a dagger. The point is, it's almost powerless against armor. We'll do the search and rescue, but I thought I'd at least report back. If the elves leave, there will be a hole in the air surveillance network. We'll lose our long-range suppression capability. The elf's eyes narrowed. Meryl poked me from behind with a hard object. Wait. That's not the muscle of a Uzi, is it? Joshua, are you suggesting that we abandon Milka and the others? I'm not saying that. I'll go. I'm faster than anyone. I've got legs to block arrows, and I've got weapons to protect myself. But isn't that the elves' problem? No, it's not. Don't be ridiculous. Just because elves have long ears doesn't mean they're any different from me. If someone says something about intelligence, visuals, or fighting ability, I'll cry. So I'm going to push hard here. Remember, we are one and the same. We are all in this together. Even when we are in trouble, even when we die. I'll be right out. I'm in charge here. If you feel responsible for your fellow man, then you'd better do your part. Yes, sir. Why are you clinging to me with a face like you're ready for battle? Meryl, come on, let's get out of here. No, I will take the microbus, but I'll go alone. No way. No way. Then she mimicked me with a smug look on her face. Most of the time, you're careless and naive. You can't detect a battle in the distance by yourself, and you can't distinguish the enemy's shadow. You can't even read the signs of nearby enemies, so you won't be able to find Milka in hiding. In that case, we'll just have to go and come back. With the noise and size of that magic tool, it would make an excellent decoy, wouldn't it? You knew. At Meryl's urging, I started the car and drove off. At the front side of the canyon, under the ramp to the city, the blocking line could not be crossed, so I stored the car. Once we had avoided the traps and were on the south side of the ravine, I took the microbus out of storage again, making sure there was no sign of the enemy. Before getting in, Meryl squinted to look around and tilted her head to listen carefully. I lent you those binoculars, but you don't use them, do you? Give them back already. She took a seat in the front row next to the driver's seat and pointed to the southwest direction with a confident look on her face. It's straight ahead. Did you see Milka or something? No. It was the sound of battle. Even sight is astonishing, but hearing? It's almost 2 kilometers to the edge of the forest. Hurry up. Joshua. The neighing of the horses and that metallic sound indicate that they are probably engaged in battle. The young elf doesn't have the legs to run away from the horse or the strength to defeat the cavalry. Either they'll chase her out like that or... As I started the microbus at full throttle, I heard the dwarf girl muttering to herself beside me. She couldn't even get out of the forest. They would kill her. I was connected to Earth's black market from another world with the skill market. Chapter 24 to 25. Here's the chapter. Enjoy. Chapter 24. Brute gun. I pushed the gas pedal all the way down to 120 kilometers per hour, which was close to the limit for driving on flat but bumpy soil. The dented suspension bounced as it bottomed out, and the car creaked violently. I don't care if this car breaks down or not, as long as we make it in time, that's all that matters. I can see it. That's her. A small figure came running out of a break in the forest. I can't tell if it's an elf or not. The figure was limping and holding one arm as if wounded. I saw 3 lightly armored cavalrymen running after the figure. They were slowly encircling her, holding their spears and shouting something to their companions. It was obvious that their goal was to torment the fleeing elf child. There was no weapon in their hands. They must have thought that they could kill her at any time and that they would not have to worry about getting hurt if she fought back. The grinning face tightened as they looked at us. Bear. While honking the horn, I passed through the middle of the enemy with the momentum of hooking a horse. It's just a poor idea to hit a horse because it will probably break the car's body. Oh well. The cavalry had scattered and taken their distance, so I had achieved my goal. Milka, this way. Run. There was no response from the elf, as if she had run out of energy and strength. As soon as I stopped the car, Meryl ran out the door. She forcefully drags the slumped elf child up, lifts her on her shoulders, and instantly rushes into the car. Okay, Joshua, let's go. Whoa. Muji. A spear pierces the accordion door that has just been closed. Meryl, who was trying to protect her, threw the elf onto the floor and covered her, and the elf looked up at her with red, resentful eyes as if she were suffocating. It was a close call. Aside from the car's body, you will not be safe if you get hit by it. Are you trying to run away, you filthy subhuman? Don't hide in that strange vehicle. Come out. No, I think it's best for you to hide in plain sight, subhuman. Hey, give us the kid, and I'll spare your life. That kid's ours, and I still haven't plunged my spear into her yet. Outside the car, a sneering laugh echoed. A coward who can only bully the weak is talking nonsense. Joshua, our first priority is to get out of here. Is that kid okay? Oh? Yeah, no problem. She has some wounds, but they're not serious. Okay. Well then, just give me a minute. I moved the car into reverse and opened the door on the side blind to the cavalry. With the engine running, I show Meryl the open, close switch. When I get out, close the door using this one. When you do that, take care of the kid. Hey, wait up. Don't take unnecessary risks just because of your feelings. Oh, no, they're scouts, right? We can't let them leave unharmed. You just thought of that, didn't you? Yeah, I think they already know. Well, I guess they do. I shrugged my shoulders and looked at Meryl. If she really stops me, I might waver a bit. Ah, geez. It can't be helped. Don't let your guard down, okay? Don't worry. As long as I can see them, I'm fine. Seeing me come down, the cavalrymen began to grin again. 2 of them were holding hand spears, and the other one had let go of his spear, so he slowly drew his sword from his waist. Wow, he looks like a human. Isn't it possible that his parents mixed with subhumans? If so, it's rare. It might fetch a good price if we sell him. I'm not joking. I don't want a subhuman man. I'd rather have the kid from earlier. The man who drew his sword, perhaps underestimating that I was unarmed, swung it wide and closed in on me. Maybe he was going to continue with but I pulled a huge pistol-like thing out of my storage and pointed right at the cavalryman's nose. It was an extra service item I had just received from Simon. It's probably a cheap gun, but it's pretty handy. It should be. There is a thunderous sound, and the cavalryman freezes, missing everything above his mouth. His lower jaw shivered, his tongue darted, and he tumbled from his horse. In the background, I see 2 horsemen with their mouths open and their eyes wide. Wow! What a mess. I'll do my best not to use it as much as possible. After shooting the gun myself, I was amazed at the power of the gun in my hand. It's a sawed-off shotgun made by Simon. It's a simple shotgun with 2 barrels lined up horizontally with the floor and barrel cut down to the size of a large handgun. Even in my former world, this kind of gun is only made by criminals, and of course, it is illegal in normal countries. In fact, this gun has no use except for criminals. Since there is no aperture in the barrel to control the dispersion of the shotgun shells, the shotgun shells suddenly spread over a wide area. While the effective range is devastatingly low, the damage to the enemy in close quarters is as bad as a machine gun. It's like a beehive with one shot. It has a two-shot capacity, though. What are you going to do with me now? I shot the cavalrymen in the stomach as they came to their senses at my voice and tried to lift their spears unsteadily. This is the man who proclaimed that he would spear the elf kid, and he would do it with something other than a spear. I would not kill him just like that. At best, he should struggle and die in the field. He rolled and screamed, and his pleas for mercy, inaudible to God or to me, soon dwindled. The shotgun wounds seemed to be more deadly than I thought. I don't check to see if he's dead. It's impossible to fight back anyway, and there's no way he'll make it back alive. I point my gun at the last one, who is pale and shaking. It's a horizontal double-barreled shotgun, so there are no more bullets, but there's no way he can tell. After the count of 10, I'm going to shoot you. Run for your life. Whether you survive or not depends on you and your horse's efforts. 10. I look quietly at the cavalryman who has turned his horse around to escape. 9. I've seen this kind of thing in the movies. My actions were those of a villain, though. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. The cavalryman who was frantically driving his horse was a scout and was quite good with the reins. He's quickly breaking the distance and is about to enter the shadows of the forest. 2. 1. Okay. It's time. I don't know if he can hear me, but I announce and fire one single shot from my AKM. After a brief pause, the cavalryman tilted, and the horse fell, rolled over, and stopped moving. Chapter 25, Small Pitfall. This guy is terrible. He took my prey, messed it up, shoved it in some weird thing, and swung it around. That was the first thing Milka-chan said as we drove back to the Kasemayan defense line. This guy she was referring to was me. It's true that we drove home on a bumpy road, so the little elf was like a pinball in the car. It's also true that I killed the cavalrymen by making mincemeat out of them with shotgun bullets. Half the reason I did that was to save you. The other half was a personal grudge, though. Don't point at me with your eyes like you're looking at a dog that's behaving badly. I'm going to cry, and you're going to have a 34-year-old on the ground thrashing around and crying. Before I could retort, Milka was slapped on the back of the head by the elf man. That hurts. What are you doing, Colonel? He's the same elf that told us that Milka was missing. I wonder if this is the same elf that told us the war was starting. Colonel, was it? I learned it, but it's probably useless. I'm not sure I'd be able to distinguish him if he got mixed up with the other elves. Apologies for your rudeness. To him? Of course. But first, did you thank him properly? Thank him? For what? The elf girl, who was slapped again, looked at me with a grudge. I don't know. The reason for this is because she disregarded the advice to hold onto the car and bounced around. She got mad at me for opening the wound, but that's because she refused to put on her seatbelt. When we got back to a safe place, I realized that we should have just transferred to the edge of the plane. I'm not going to worry too much about consuming magic power now that there's still time before the battle. Well, it's too late now. The war is about to start, and you didn't come back. You bothered the busy adults to search for you, and you even had to fight with the cavalry that chased you. I could have defeated those people by myself. He slapped her again. Stop it. That kid's brain is going to be destroyed. Even if it's just that, she's kind of an idiot. You say you were able to defeat it, Milka, but what's your weapon? No, I don't have one right now. But that's because if Joshua and Meryl hadn't gone to save you, you'd be dead. She was slapped again. She clenched her teeth as she turned her head and clenched her hands to hold back her tears, shaking with anger, frustration, embarrassment, or whatever. Yeah, I understand. There's something about that kind of non-negotiable, non-apology feeling you get when you're that age. That's fine, but don't look at me, little elf. You're being beaten up because of your bad attitude and mouth, not because of my orders or responsibility. Alright, that's enough. You are not to be sent into battle with us, and you will not have the elves' weapons. Milka tried to argue with Colonel, but she was frightened by the cold eyes and the killing intent that she found in him and held her tongue. The face of a handsome gentleman who is really angry is quite frightening. Because I took the liberty of going on a reconnaissance mission, because I didn't show these guys any affection, for that alone. That's the problem. Before that, you can't be trusted! Exclamation mark. She looked more frightened than shocked. Milka's eyes looked red and blurred again. The color and the light were much stronger than before. Red? You have no respect for your comrades, and you have no intention of apologizing for the trouble you've caused. Your incompetence is dragging people down and putting many of them in danger. Who would want to fight with a fellow like that? You can just die on your own, but it don't drag our precious friends into it. The taciturn elf's sudden dear turn did not please me either. Milka ran away, and Meryl followed her. I was left behind with the handsome elf, and I had a bad premonition. No, not a premonition, exactly. It was a conviction based on skill. An ability that I'm sure I've acquired through my improved status. It wasn't gospel for me, it was probably a curse. Colonel, right? Can I ask you something? Anything? Do you remember what you were telling us about the color of Milka's eyes? Blue. You've seen it. That's the blood of the northern elves. It's rare around here. Are there any subhumans with red eyes? I've heard that there are human rabbit people in the northern continent. We have no contact with them because of the ocean between us. The depths of my stomach grow heavy. A malicious observer. That's what it is. The eyes of those with malicious or hostile intentions are visible in red. I also saw a faint green horizontal line above Conal's head. I knew it was an HP bar. Damn it. I think Milka's was red, too. Okay. So, one more thing. That girl, have you noticed anything different since Milka came here? Conal's complexion changed. If you just want to support me or have a particular novel in mind that you'd like to request, please join my Ko-fi or Patreon. The links are below. Once again, thank you Clan.